School board meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And do we have any revisions?
We do
Or
not.
additions? Correspondence?
No. Sorry.
So what we're doing this evening is on Saturday, we went through the budget. Again, we didn't have a lot of time because we didn't have access to it until Friday. So we decided to have a second meeting this evening. We'll be voting on position requests, and we're also going to be going through some categories that we had questions on within the budget. And I think everyone had an opportunity probably to take a little bit further look into the budget itself, and you may have some questions. So before we send it off to the budget committee, we want to have a second shot at it. If there is anything, anyone has any questions, concerns, or adjustments they want to make, then that's what we're going to be doing this evening. What I'd like to do, rather than holding Josh up, that we have from Campbell Athletics, because that was where some of the questions were, that we might as well start right in with him. And that way you can go on your way, and then we'll go back, just maybe finish the high school afterwards. Bill, while you're here, and then send you off. All right, so welcome.
Thank you.
I think your first section is game officials. And I know that,
Which page are you on, Brad?
I'm sorry, page 17.
17.
So I guess my first question, because I asked Ms. Lonigan when we were here on Saturday, as far as concussion testing, that I don't know if he gave you that message or not, as far as what the cost. So what is the cost for the school just for testing?
For the high school, it's $1,000 with the software.
Yeah.
And then he brought up the middle school kids too. Me personally, I would rather concussion test all the athletes to cover our bases.
Right.
It's not required by the state. It's not required by the
Right.
NHIAA. But to cover ourselves, I mean, we can nitpick. Do we need concussion testing with golf, bass fishing, some of the things? Personally, I would say anyone who does a sport, concussion tests just to cover ourselves.
So regardless of how many you have, like at the high school, it's just $1,000 flat fee, or?
Yeah. With how quick the turnaround is, I was trying to get a hold of the trainer so I can get you a more exact number.
Okay.
But from what it was right now with the high school, because what they do is they take the software and then they send it in, they review it, and then they send it back.
Okay.
So based off of that number, it's $100,000. So I'd say if we're going to do both schools, it's going to be roughly
Sorry, how much?
if 1,000. If we're going to do
I know.
both
I
schools,
thought he said 100,000.
100,000.
that's it.
Under 1,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
So it wasn't just me.
It's nice knowing each other.
No, so it would be roughly 2,000 for both schools
Okay.
if we were to move forward with that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I think the only sport that's left, the middle school, is basketball at this point. Is that correct
To play this year, you mean?
for this year?
Baseball?
Baseball, oh, it'll be in the spring.
Oh, for winter.
Oh, for winter,
Right.
yeah.
So if we wanted to do basketball, like what would we have to do at this point?
I would have to talk to our athletic trainer
Okay.
to see maybe a day or two he can go down there and
Okay.
test some of the kids down there. We have to decide, since it isn't mandated by anyone, do we want to test every child that's trying out? Do we want to test once a team is solidified?
How is it done at the high school right now?
In the
So
high school,
is
if you
everyone
sign
trying
up
out?
for Family ID and you're going to try out, you're getting tested.
Okay.
Because if something does happen in tryouts, we're covered. So obviously it'd be a little bit more.
I think it's well worth it. I mean,
No, I
you're talking
completely
$1,000 for a year.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said on Saturday, that especially in today's day and age, it's
Yeah.
so easy to test for it, and there's so many concussions that seem like to spring up.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So it's $1,000 for the software, but then obviously Chip has to read. He's a reader,
Yeah.
so there's costs involved as far as with him.
That's
also.
where, I would have to get a more exact number from him.
Okay.
Because there's two types from what I was talking with him in August, is it's a balance test and a computer test. So it's a memory base
Yeah.
and a balance base. depending on what part of the brain got hit.
Right.
So they test both of those, and then they send the brain or the computer stuff out, and that's the software, and then it comes back.
Okay.
So, like I said, I would have to get more exact numbers from
Yeah.
see exactly how much it would cost. But he would have to go down to the middle school
Right.
to do some of that.
Okay. Right. I think basketball's gonna be starting pretty soon for them too. I'm not
Down
sure
to
exactly when
middle
their tryouts are. Yeah. All right. So the next category is game officials, 391.
Mhm.
I know the per official rate went up, but that was like a couple years ago, went up, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
This past year,
Last year, yeah.
It's passed.
this past year, yep. Yeah, it jumped from 28,000 to 35,000.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And do we know how much the cost changed?
it varied depending on sport. It was, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. It was somewhere along the lines of
I don't know what they're
$2 to
paying
$4 a game.
Okay.
Yeah, but I couldn't give you an exact number.
So, Bill, you probably have this answer, or Josh, you may also.
Athletics.
What is the mileage stipend for each sport that they receive?
So for referee truck, go ahead.
Yeah, over
That's for
40
referees?
miles. If
Yep.
a referee
So
travels
refs.
40 miles away.
All right.
they
I
get
didn't know if that was a
$14.
coach or not, as far as the stipend.
No.
So anything over X amount of miles, they get.
40. Yep.
And that's
It's an extra $14.
And considering the fact, I don't think we play anybody that's within 40 miles.
Yeah. Well, once in a while we get referees from close, but
Right,
yeah.
right, true.
So the $915 increase in that in game officials is because of the rate set by the, and is it the NIHIAA or is it a state thing or
Well,
is it?
the rates remain the same. It's just now whether or not, are we playing games
Oh, I
further,
see.
are we playing games further away next year?
Okay.
No, it's
Or are we just projecting we're going to be playing an extra?
this
playoff
is
game?
where, and I actually watched the last meeting, so I knew some of the questions that you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
Is when I was going through the budget with my assistant Jen, we were looking at some numbers that didn't quite make sense and weren't matching up.
Okay.
So the 915 is we went through every game and then paid out every official that we were getting, and based off of that number, we were getting an extra $915 for all the games that we were playing. So as you look at the budget, some of them don't necessarily match up with what we were doing. So it was maybe $50 or it would be 88. Official was missed here, or official was missed here. There are two extra officials.
So
for
this should
sport.
be the actual cost then
Yeah.
for next year?
Yeah, that should be it.
If
And
they
wasn't
make every game.
preseason,
If they make every.
Yeah, and then there was
And when you consider the fact that right now,
And
girls
the other
soccer's in
sheet
first place,
I know.
boys soccer's in first place.
No, I don't,
boys-
I just,
First
I didn't know if the increase
Okay,
wasn't,
okay.
was due to a rate increase or
Okay.
how that
yeah,
was
yeah.
figured out. Okay.
So then going to page 18. And this looks like it's something we had once and then didn't have for a couple of years, and then have again. And that's repairs and maintenance, 430.
Mhm.
And it says annual recurring repairs, soccer, lax goals, nets, backstops, pitching mound covers, weight room equipment. I mean, so it covers quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't replace the soccer nets on a yearly basis, right? We don't
No.
replace the lacrosse nets on a regular basis.
those probably will get replaced
The lacrosse
on a
nets.
yearly basis,
Okay.
just from the beating they take.
And I think the couple of years that were missed were oversights with Jared. And what he tried to do then is say, okay, these are recurring costs. I need to make sure that they're included in the budget, because what he was finding is he was having to transfer money out from other accounts
Okay.
to do repairs and maintenance.
Because lacrosse wasn't funded until 2 years.
Well, that
ago,
was a
whatever,
piece
yeah,
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
3 years ago.
yeah,
Right.
but you wouldn't spend $2,000 on lacrosse.
Must be some good nuts.
Yeah. Syracuse nuts.
Yeah.
I've never seen those.
But so then going on to just regular supplies, 610. So
Yep.
it could be that you just left the verbiage in there that was in there before, because I know it's the same thing we've seen for like 3 or 4 years, and the budget committee will say the same thing. So it really says nothing to us
Mhm.
as far as where the monies are going, what we're spending monies on, especially where throughout this, like in 3 or 4 places, 5 places, it says nets.
Yep.
So we're paying for nets
Mouth
up here, we're paying
guards.
for nets down here, and
Mouth-
mouth guards.
Lots of milk cards.
Well, and like pop-up tents.
And I know
That's
that-
a lot of pop-up tents every year.
For the track.
Yeah.
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 So what I did is I took what Jared had right now, just because he's been doing the budget
Yep.
the last couple of years. And then I was going to go off of that. I will tell you that based off of the numbers and what we were doing, there was stuff that was placed in different areas that should have been in another area. So some of these numbers are going to be kind of displaced throughout the entire thing. So what I was doing is we were going through this, and to be honest, I can't give you an exact number how much everything's going to cost, because some of the stuff we're starting from scratch right now.
Yeah.
So that's why I took what this was, and this is what we've dug up the last 36 hours is where are we going to find some of this money? Something had $0 in it, and it was spent $0, but it was supposed to be $4,000. And then something was supposed to be $4,000 and $10,000 was taken out. So based off of this, I mean, we're going to have to move some money around this year and how it's set up, but I can't really give you an exact number of what all of 610 is going to look like because I haven't been here for a year or two. So it's going to take at least a year or two for me to really figure out how much we have to put in for nets, how many mouthpieces we actually go through, and et cetera.
So do you think you're going to rework this whole thing next year and just make it your own?
We've already started.
Okay.
It's something I've asked for in
Yeah.
the past, and I'm not sure if that's the direction you're going to go in, is break out each sport separately.
We were talking about that this afternoon.
Which we can work on together too, and we can
Yeah.
identify, they call it the subject code. They have regular instruction, like you have the 05, 02 for art,
Mhm.
painting, all those
Right.
types of things. We can do the same type of thing for sports.
So would it be
depending on
I'm
the
sorry.
availability of those codes.
Yep.
We can either do it by season or we can do it by sport.
And there is some fuzzy area when it comes to fundraising. I know football raises a ton of money, and where are the uniforms coming from? This was a problem we had last year. They said they were raising money for uniforms, and we pay for uniforms. So that was, yeah.
And unfortunately for you, we've
Yeah.
been asking for these kinds of clarifications for years and just haven't gotten them. So now you get to help.
So, and you happen to know offhand, like what the schedule is for uniform replacement?
Yep, I got it right here.
Okay.
So I dug up as much as I could today. And some of the uniforms were labeled, some of the uniforms weren't labeled. The oldest uniform I could come across was girls lacrosse, but then they ordered new ones in 2019. After that, I didn't find any uniform that was labeled 2015. And then there was boys and girls soccer, volleyball, and it looks like that's it from 2016. I don't have a year for outdoor, indoor track. I don't have a year for the spirit competition. I don't have a year for wrestling, and I don't have a year for golf. So I'm not sure. It's more.
Wrestling
Does
hasn't
it-
ordered any in years and years because they're in between.
And I looked at
Fight
some of them.
gear
I'm like,
and
these look like
singlets.
they've been around. Maybe
Yeah.
we can buy new ones. But then how
And
much
so-
is 12 golf polos?
Yeah.
It isn't going to be that crazy. But
Right.
some of them have been ordered. Like boys and girls basketball was last year. Boys and girls lacrosse was last year.
Girls
so that
soccer-
we
girls
should be
soccer was-
covered.
Girls soccer was this year. What else is going this year?
What do you mean this? Like, are we going to order this year?
Girls have new soccer uniforms
I
this year.
believe so. Yeah.
I saw 2016.
The boys are like gray. And they were
I saw
supposed to be
boys and
white.
girls
Yeah.
soccer and volleyball were all 2016, and
So
cross country
in
was
general,
2016.
how many years do you get out of uniforms?
5.
Five.
It should be a 5-year rotation,
Okay.
which should mean, from the years I have, we shouldn't have to buy uniforms this year because there isn't a uniform that's
This year we're in now, or-
2015. This current year right now. So 1920, we would buy the 20 uniforms, but there's no 2015. So technically, based off what I have, we shouldn't have to. But like I said, I don't know when the golf, wrestling,
Right.
the spirit, I don't know when those were ordered.
So aside from football
Yeah.
being probably the most expensive because there's most kids
Yes.
playing, what's like an average sport full uniform?
It's going to be anywhere from
I know it ranges, but just
2 to 4.
1,000.
2 to 4.
39 boys on the soccer team. That's
What
a
is it?
football team.
Yeah.
There are 39
And
boys.
yeah, it's going to depend on size of teams as well.
And if
they're going to
the
vary.
uniforms walk away, which they have been.
Yes, and I'm finding that out as well.
But it also begs maybe looking at relationships with vendors who will work with you for an extended period of time and cut you discounts or
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if right now we're using a different vendor for every uniform rather than just going to one single
So
vendor.
I was talking to some vendors over the last couple weeks. I got calls from guys that are still working out of the garage, and I got calls from actual vendors, and then sublimation jerseys, and then Under Armour from football. Me personally, I would like in my old school, we had a deal with Nike. I brought them in, we developed a deal with them, and then we would get some kickback, and they would give us discounts on uniforms. I already have a deal on the table from Under Armour, and I'm currently using that deal to try and leverage another deal with Nike
Oh,
to see
Brian,
what we can get.
You just made Brian
So-
day.
So I'm waiting for them to get back to me on that.
Okay.
But I think a lot of these jerseys were ordered like anyone would go to a Dick's Sporting Goods and just buy it off the rack, brand new, not sales priced.
The basketball uniforms will last another year. They're sublimation jerseys. And
But I
they're
hope
already
so. They're
turning-
18, 19.
I'm not saying
I don't know.
anything. But you get what you pay for with sporting
Oh,
uniforms.
100%. That's anything. You're going to get what that's
5
like the
years
football
is-
jerseys for the price they pay for them. They should last at least 5 years.
And they're black.
And they're black, but it also depends on what's going into the sport. A golf polo should last longer than a football jersey. However, I can't put forth an argument saying that we can't order a golf polo every 5 years if we're ordering football jerseys every 5 years. It has to be a 5-year rotation no matter what happens, just to make it fair
And Josh,
across all
just
sports.
before you get off the topic, so when you're negotiating with vendors
Yeah.
and you talked about a kickback, define what you mean by that so that everybody understands.
So there's a couple deals.
Be a better word
I don't want to be,
rebate.
I don't want to be sitting there.
Yeah,
It's important that the viewing public understands.
Endorsement deal or?
So what Under Armour
I do notice you're wearing a Nike
put
coat.
forth, I went to Syracuse. I didn't have a choice. So what they put forth, Under Armour put forth, is we were going to be able to get. I could speak more on Nike just because I had an agreement for a year and a half with the company down at my old school. But based off of what I comprehended from the agreement from Under Armour, is it was 40% off any Under Armour gear, 35% off footwear, and then if you spent X amount of money, I think it was like 30 grand, then you would get a 10%, you would get a check. So say we spent $100,000, we would then get a $10,000 check that would come back to us
On top of the
on
discount.
top of the discounts and stuff. Nike, the deal I had at my old school, and it's through a company called VSN Sports, is anything that we order from them, whether it was PE equipment or sports equipment, was going to be 10% off. If it was Nike, it was another 35. It was 35% off. So then we can put out specific sweaters or any apparel that people want, parents, community members, kids. And then we would then get that check kickback at the end, which was 10% as well. So then we would get that check towards the end.
Rebate.
Is that why they have like stores?
But it goes right back into
Yes.
the athletic program.
Right.
And
We
it's
get the- yeah.
there's an offset for tax dollars by,
100%. Yep.
help. Yes. So that's the key thing is that it comes right back in.
Do you know offhand, I know they talked about replacing all the banners with like a single banner per
Yeah.
sport. Do you know what the cost is involved with that?
It's going to be around, that number is pretty accurate. The 6,500 that was there.
Yeah, it says
I
for
went through
plaques
that.
also. And
Yeah, I went through that and I got a number from a company.
Okay.
It's going to be right around the $6,500.
And we expect that to be like a one-time. That was one of my
Yeah,
questions.
off of
was
that-
How much of this is one-time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a one-time purchase, and then it's $5 to put up
Okay.
4 numbers.
Okay. Can you tell me what Operation Hat Trick is?
Operation Hat Trick was, I'm learning about it,
Okay.
but based off of how I comprehended it, was it's a deal that I think football kind of led with it, and it was we would buy a hat for each hat was $20. 10 of the dollars would come back into our budget, and $10 would go to the military.
Okay.
And that's run by the Campbell Athletic Leaders.
Yeah.
Which is the student leadership for athletic
Okay.
kids. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a fundraising, a little bit of a benefit for
Yeah.
for veterans.
Okay.
And schools across the state participate.
It's
That's
an
very
NHIA,
common.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I see it all over the
NHIA
place at
conference.
games.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So it should be district funded then. Okay.
I'll go into page 21, dues and fees. And just looking at this, I mean, you look at 2017, and again, monies may have been moved or been paid differently, I'm not sure, but we went from 11.5 to 14, now we're down to 12.
Mhm.
And we're holding steady. This year request was 12,680,
Yep.
same as next year. I'm sure you probably don't know the total past history as far as where the fluctuation occurs.
All these numbers are coming from the NHIAA. So maybe they bumped it up for a year and then got enough complaints where they went back down to 12.5. I'm not sure, but the assigner fees are coming from Arbiter, and those are the same exact things every year. Same thing with the varsity sports. They're numbers they give us that we have to pay.
I would think too, Brian, when I look at the detail, many of those things are going to be fixed depending on but the last one on special
that was gonna be my
competitions
question.
and tournament fees.
Mhm.
That's probably the wiggle room of, so what did you do that year? So that could fluctuate. It may have driven that 14. It may have been a transfer against.
Do you know what that category is?
I've dug through it a little bit. From what I'm taking is it's a lot of the competitions that aren't sponsored by the NHIAA. So the cross country meets, the cheer competitions, the spear competitions, not bass fishing, but anything that they're not necessarily sponsoring.
Okay.
They're still promoting and it's on their website and everything, but they don't have people to necessarily run it and assign it. So the way the cross country meets is every meet we go to, we're paying anywhere from $100 to $250 per team. So that is where that money's coming out of.
Can I ask you a question back up on 610 supplies? So I'm on
Yep.
page 18. So we're looking at an increase of 4,900. What were the drivers in that cost? Or was it kind of an overall increase to each sport?
Let me look at my number.
An increase of 4,900, but
banners.
also
Huh?
the prior year actual was 30.
Big amount of banners.
Yeah, right.
Page 18, Tina? Is that what that-
Yeah, the
I
bottom,
actually
the very
think I
bottom
wrote
of
that
page
down.
18. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the banners,
2,900 was banners.
2,900 is banners.
Yep.
Okay.
I thought you said it was 65.
No, it is 65, the jump, because originally it
But
was
the jump was-
36 from the prior
right.
year.
Okay.
Yep.
It's just what I see from, the 2019 budget and the 2019 actual, we're up
4,900.
4,900
From which one?
Yeah,
from the 2019 actual. No,
Oh.
no, from 2019 actual, we're up
8 or more.
8 or more. Yeah. I can't do the quick math. I'm sorry. I don't have
I
it.
brought my calculator this time.
Okay. So I guess
6,500 is what.
6,500.
Yeah.
So it just seems like that is quite a jump for one category. I didn't know if that was kind of a, we didn't add any more sports. Is it kind of an overall increase in the cost of equipment, or is it due to any one expense in that?
Like you said earlier, the big jump is the banners.
Yeah.
Some of it is going to be equipment cost, where with that transition over to Wilson, a lot of the stuff we're using now is more expensive than it was with Spalding, I think they're using before. So that's definitely that. The rest of that is probably going to make up that extra 2,000 with
Okay.
the balls there. I think the soccer balls are $70 this year, if I remember right. Each soccer ball they're making us use.
Okay.
And that's what's required to need.
It's not required regular season, but it is required once you go to the playoffs. So from my perspective, you might as well practice what you're going to use or play with so right now our soccer team practices with any soccer ball they have, and in the games we're playing with the same ball that they're going to use in the playoffs. It was, I don't know what agreement New Hampshire NHIAA came with, but it didn't help us.
Okay.
and I You know, I could look back at my prior year's budgets, planning things. I don't recall off the top of my head why we've gone from the 38 up to the
Yeah.
45, why that jump occurred. But I could look back at my other
Okay.
budget prep books and take a look at that.
I just know because of the increase, my concern is that with the cost of the big increase in transportation,
Yeah.
if we can possibly kind of pare down in other areas to keep that from rising.
No, and like I said, this is probably going to look, this time next year is probably going to look 100 times different.
Great.
So I'm hoping it's going to be a 180 because I'll be able
Yeah.
to give you much more exact numbers because I'll have an idea of what we need, what we could wiggle with, and what stuff
Yeah.
kind of like more dream stuff that we could have.
Mhm.
So I'll have a much better idea.
Did you see any redundancy in the lists of things that you could have got rid of, $5,000 worth of mouth guards, et cetera?
So
Well, it's just that it's just all generic. It's all just general.
But
It's-
we had this conversation the other night. Do we provide mouth guards?
so
We should have mouth guards
have
for
a couple
kids.
extra.
Yeah.
we have to
Right.
provide mouth guards
Okay.
for each kid that's going to be an athlete because
sport.
if
Really?
well if they don't, it's I don't know if it's a have to. I'm sorry. It's I want to cover ourselves. If so every kid decides they're not going to buy a mouth guard this year, we need to be able to provide that so we can help prevent the concussion side of things. And a mouthpiece is $1. So I'm going to put forward that $1 per mouthpiece.
You're getting a good
Make
price
sure we
on
don't get it.
those. Oh my
But in here,
They're 5,000.
Oh.
so the way, and I think the one big thing, and this is where we're talking with Corey a little bit, is halfway down the page. I have a separate page. I think it's 19, where it says mouthpieces are $5,000.
That includes, does that include?
That's the whole
That's
football
everything with
category.
football.
Yeah.
Right.
So I understand mouthpieces, etc., says $5,000.
It's the line before
But
it
that's
too.
the
Helmets,
two lines
Oh,
above it.
helmets,
So it's
yeah.
everything
Yeah.
involved is $5,000.
So basically, what we're looking at is baseball is like $2,000. Basketball is $2,000. Is that a fair statement? This applies for
Yeah, it's
Okay.
yeah. That's what's here.
Yeah.
What it's going to look like next year? Baseball could be 1,000, softball could be 3,000. I can't give
Okay.
you an exact number of what
Okay.
it's going to look like next year, but that's why I was
right.
going off of the last 4
A
years.
little more detail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
fine.
not an issue at all.
What I was suggesting before you meet with the budget committee or before Bill meets with the budget committee, I would do some research as far as what your cost increase is on your soccer balls. If there's any other balls that were switched brand right now that has escalated in price, have that ready. I mean, I can see where most of it's coming from, like $3,000, whatever it's from the banners.
And that's like you said, that's going to be a 1 year cost, and then it'll be $5 to put up a year
Yeah.
instead of
Gonna take a
150
bunch
per
down
banner.
and just put a few up there?
Yeah, per team. We just don't have
Yeah.
space. We have to do it at some point. We want to get a new gym just for banners.
Banners are cheaper.
Yeah. So are we, I'm on 21 now.
Good.
Okay. So I'm just looking at from 2019 actual, I'm on page 21 at the bottom here of your department. From 2019 actual to 2020 was a 12% increase over just for everything. And then we have another 7.8% increase from the 2020 budget to the 21 requested budget. Is there, because of the rising transportation costs, are there any one-time expenditures that we might be able to hold off on just to bring that percentage down? Or do we need everything
I
this
mean, I
year?
guess we could hold off on the budgets this year and see if or the banners, I'm sorry, this year, and maybe do that next year.
How about your kettlebell
Kettlebells.
storage?
And the weight room
I
equipment?
think the
kettlebell.
storage we need.
Storage
There's no
is-
question about the storage.
there's-
We were walking through the weight room the other day, and the kettlebells are all just laying on the floor.
All over the place.
And that's a safety hazard.
So-
You just can't have that.
Just asking, because I'm confused by that. I thought the storage was in
There's two different
your
ones.
budget. Well, I thought it was in
There's,
the regular school.
No,
there's
there's one.
storage, there's storage in one, and then there's
Bed.
the additional kettlebell
Yeah.
and rack in the other budget.
Okay.
So the storage we don't have currently.
So which one's not in the athletic budget or is in the academic
That's
budget?
that was the
How's that
4,000
one?
in what line was that in?
That was a
Goes
special
towards the
ed.
end.
Yeah, it was towards the end of your budget.
738. Oh, that was in the
No,
one
no,
above
no,
that.
no.
No, it's not in the athletic budget. There were kettlebells and
I thought it was in special ed.
It was in
No,
PE.
it
Was
was
it
in,
PE?
it's PE.
Oh, it was in PE.
Oh.
PE.
Okay.
Or was it in PE? One was in, the rack was in PE.
Is that
Let me
for
just check
strength
that.
training? The kettlebells for strength training? I don't pretend like, well, you can probably see. I
Yeah.
don't
So
work out.
the 734 line of the athletics has the kettlebells additional,
And
for
that's, is that
4,000.
4,000?
but it
Yeah.
includes benches, plyo boxes,
Correct.
lamb hoop,
Yep.
glute ham bench, etc. But that's where the kettlebells are. So the storage, I think, is in the,
The storage is in the PE budget.
For the set of kettlebells we already have.
We have a set already.
We
Yeah.
have one set.
In terms of, that's a strong set. There's,
Well, we have one set, but it goes up to like 100 pounds, and no one is even touching half the kettlebells we have.
right.
So this
Okay.
the additional kettlebells is more for, it's not I want to get a whole set. It's
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to get at least half a set or two half a sets of the lower
Low
stuff.
end.
Especially with the strength and conditioning classes I'm doing, we have to develop a whole rotation. The kids have to wait because we have the lowest kettlebell we have is 18. And the highest the kids are going is up to the 44 pound. And yet we have 53 up to 98.
Yeah.
We're not even touching those.
Uh-huh.
It'd be nice to have kids using those.
Yeah.
We're not even close.
So are there additional kettlebells in the phys ed budget as well? Or just here in the,
Just
were
the
some-
rack. If you go to the, I think
okay.
it's on page 5 or, wait, no. Page 5, the 734 line,
Mhm.
you'll see one kettlebell storage rack.
I was
So
only
that's a
$200.
$200 item in there.
And that's not something that we would be able to wait on, the weight room equipment.
The kettlebells, maybe. The rack, definitely no.
Yeah. Okay.
Could you sell the 100-pound kettlebells? Could you sell those? Or do you want to still have them in case we have this crazy freak?
Honestly, I don't know what a resale value.
I was
that
just
would-
curious.
It's just how many people are really
I don't know. Why do we even
using
have
a
them?
kettlebell that
That
much.
big.
You're lucky I didn't know
it's-
what it
I don't
looks
really
like.
know what the problem is that it's good that we have it now because we might use it down the road. But some of these things, like we have 200-pound dumbbells, that's $330 if you were to just buy 100-pound dumbbell, one for each hand. It's $330. So they're not cheap equipment, and I don't know. I doubt we'd be able to go find someone and
just
say, "Hey,
Yeah.
we'll give you a 93-pound kettlebell for $200." I don't think anyone's out there. I think we're kind of stuck with it at this point.
does the bass fishing team need an anchor?
That's what it would use for. Pretty much.
You doing it?
You need a pretty big.
You doing it?
I think it's huge.
Can you explain the family online registration, family ID online software?
That
Money well spent too.
yeah. So that's what
That-
the how we are using it, or
Oh, is that new or are we
No.
using?
No.
no,
Oh, it's
that's
not
how all
new.
the kids
Oh,
sign up,
okay.
all the paperwork and everything.
Oh, okay.
That's
Got
when
it.
you'll be signing that in August.
Good.
Get the
Okay.
kids into
Yeah.
football.
Yeah,
So
right.
everything is electronic.
I got the email the first time
Oh,
this
okay.
year about it, so I thought I was thinking it was new.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's what that's for.
All right.
And it's nice they save your information so you don't have to do it over and
Oh my
over
God,
and
that's
over
great.
again.
And if something does happen on the field, the coach can pull that up and have all the information there
Oh.
instead of going through a binder of
Stat.
paperwork that
Oh,
parents
that's
turn in.
nice. Paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone else have anything else on supplies or in that area? Now, I'm going to make a motion to reduce 610 supplies. I'm just going to level fund it from last year. This year's budget proposal. I'm going to reduce it 4,900, so it'll be 40,100 will be the new total.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion?
What page you on?
I know.
We're on page 19.
I think I'm going to level funds.
And it's actually 610, which is on the bottom of page 18. That's the total. We went last year from 38,504. This year, its request was 40,100. I'm just looking to level fund it to the same. We have a first and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
500.
So I think the next thing we have for athletics is transportation, correct?
That will jump out at the budget committee.
Page is that,
But
Brandon?
going through
Let's find it.
Transportation.
what's not reflected in this budget from Saturday is I did do a full review of transportation and co-curricular across all three schools. And I did come up with numbers that I think would be more in line with 3-year actuals, and it wouldn't be as much of a jump off the page number for the high school.
And what do you have for a number for the high school?
Find it.
I think
And
it's
how?
83 something.
Huh?
How do you,
3-year actuals.
Yeah.
And then I took, well, let me pull up my,
yeah, go for it.
We'll keep the teams in the top 3 so they're home most of the time.
What's that?
I said keep the teams in the top 3 or 4
Right.
so they're home all the time.
All right.
so looking at it, I looked at 3-year average expenditures from 17 to 19 and the budget for FY 20 and 21.
Mhm.
And what I saw across the 3 schools, so there's absolutely no consistency on how those things are budgeted, how rates are identified, how any of those things are done. The new hourly rate that was increased from 48.20 to 58.20, which is a 20.75% increase, is in effect for this year, which is year 1 of the contract. So I took these numbers and I went back, I applied 20.75% to the FY19 approved budget to kind of get more of an in-line number of what we should have budgeted for this year, had we known the rate at the time. And then I took that amount, that recalculated amount, and applied the 2.5% increase, which would go into FY21. So the numbers I came up with,
Around 70,000 then.
what's that?
So it'll be around 70,000.
No.
No, 80,000. I'm sorry.
For the high school, it would put us at 83.8 for athletics
Instead of
So
103.
Corey, you're,
instead of 103.
so on page 32,
Yeah,
instead of the 103, you're putting in what number?
83.8,
83.8.
which is a
First one I
decrease
had.
of $20,191.
That was the
What was
first
that
time I
again?
had.
Decrease of
Decrease of,
We have to vote on
you're
that,
gonna
or
have
is
to
that
vote
just-
on any.
20,000.
Well, I'll make it easy because my number is 20,000. So I'm going to make a motion to reduce Cam Athletics 519 by $20,000, which will bring it to $83,991. I'll second. Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can we, I just,
Abstain.
Let's see what section.
What's that?
I guess.
I think we really need the budget committee. Because we keep saying 5% for the bus cost. I think we need to factor this in and tell them an actual percentage increase.
Oh, I think Corey has those numbers now.
I have
But I mean,
those numbers now.
not 20% for the extracurricular and 5%. I think we need to average it together as best we can and give them, it looks like it went up this percent.
But they're different.
But it's separate. It's totally
I know
separate.
it's separate,
Yeah.
but we told them it was 5% increase, and it's such a big jump, and we need to let them know.
But it's actually not a 5% increase. What was
Than this.
What's the increase?
So that hourly rate went up 20% for this year.
And they can just raise that whenever they want.
Closer to
or-
21.
It was a renegotiated contract and we were having a hard time with the billing, which is actually probably going to put us in a pickle to hit midway through winter season. They were billing us hourly rate, wait time plus mileage, which was, considering we play all our games in Canada, coming out to a lot of money. So they revised and they amended the contract to go back to the hourly billing as they did before. Within that, they gave us a rate that was 20% more.
I just think we need a
So-
ballpark for what the percent increase will be, other than,
Well, we have the increases going years forward, but what I've detailed in the memo tonight can also be provided to the budget committee so they can read my methodology on how we got to these numbers. And it details, this was across athletics and co-curricular transportation. for all three schools.
Then, sorry, if maybe I'm not, but as a percentage, what percentage does athletics and co-curricular add into our regular contract? Is it 30% of it? I mean, on top, is it another 30%? Is it another 50%?
They're all billed at different rates.
I know that, but if we say we pay $700,000 to the buses, 500,000 for the regular athletics, 200,000 for the co-curricular, what are the approximate
In
numbers?
total for
For a year.
co-curricular
For a
and
year, what do we pay the bus company and what do we on average pay for total
I mean, the
co-curricular?
regular bus contract, we're paying over $500,000.
Okay.
Special ed, we're probably paying another 4.
Special ed for.
And then
Well, we'll get the special.
just
ed
based
anyway.
on budgeted
No, I'm
numbers
just trying
for,
to.
just based on budgeted numbers for co-curricular and athletics, the way I've recalculated them, it's $123,000 in the budget.
Okay.
I mean, it's,
And that's what I was looking for is how much.
we pay them significant money.
Yeah.
So we're paying 123 for co-curricular and sports together.
That's the numbers that I've come up with.
Is that across all schools or just across
That's
all three schools?
the district
Yeah,
wide.
okay.
You know, obviously high school with the sports is going to be
Yeah.
more
So
significant.
since that's
Yeah.
like on the next page, we're talking about CHS co-curricular transportation.
So that one, I recalculated the budget to 11,900. So that's down from what's in there. And what I'm trying to do is get a consistent methodology for
No, I-
calculating
So
these things.
how
So
did it go though? Because what we did with sports is we took 2019 and increased it by 20%,
yep. And then applied another.
2.5%. So what was the amount on that one?
I came up with 11,900.
But Corey, to make sure I have this right, you did the 3-year actuals, correct?
Yeah, and I did a comparison of what the 3-year actual average looked like when it came to what was actually budgeted within that.
So
line.
for example, if you look at athletic transportation, the 2019 actual exceeded the 2019 budget, right? Versus if you look at co-curricular transport, the 2019 actual was half of what was budgeted. So this is the piece that we're picking up is very inconsistent. So Corey's taking the actuals to get a number to add the 20.75% to, and then adding the 2.5% growth for next year. So it's really not a consistent formula. I mean, we can go through and hit each transportation line uniformly, or maybe I would just suggest if the board was willing to make a blanket statement for Corey to implement the methodology off the actuals, then you should at least have consistent budgeting in all of the various lines for transport.
But there aren't really that many of them anyway, right?
There's 5.
Yeah. So why
All
don't
right,
we just-
6.
we'll just
Hit 'em
do each
all?
one. Yeah.
But that's why the co-curricular, high school co-curricular, and you said it was 11,005?
I got 11,900.
11,900.
Calculated.
But again,
It's skewed because of that.
the lower actuals,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So 11,900.
I'm going to make a motion. I don't know what the amount is on that one.
Depends if you want to do round numbers or you want to do.
it as just a replace number.
Not the same difference.
Oops. That was
I just,
wrong.
I don't know if you want to show it as a cut. I mean, then we can do the math.
Yeah, I was just going to level fund it to what we have budget for 2020, which is 11,984.
Okay,
That's all. I'm just looking to level fund it.
there you go. I'll second it.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Abstain. That's 2 of the 5, and we'll hit the other 3 anyway.
Yeah.
Most
Do you want to
likely.
do them right now while we're in the mode?
Sure.
Do you know where they are, Corey?
What's that?
Do you know where the other 3 are?
Transportation.
Yeah, I have them here.
Probably LMS, right?
So it's an LMS line.
Co-curriculars?
There's a co-curricular on page, hole punch page 10. Punches right through the page number.
Got the ship those over to the side.
Corey, what were you suggesting for the
LMS,
LMS one? Yep.
6,400.
So that one's going up. Because he didn't figure any percent increases in it.
Oh.
Right.
And high school knew about it, but I don't think anyone else did. So you're taking the average and going 20%, so like $1,000. So what was it, Corey?
6,400.
6,400.
I'll make a motion to raise LMS co-curricular to 6,400.
Second.
So that'll be a $957 increase.
Sorry, what did you raise it to?
6,400. So I raised it $957. Second.
I did. Okay.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed, abstained.
All right.
Who seconded that?
Tina.
There's one for GMS too.
So there should be an athletic
There's
one
athletic
in
on the
LMS.
Previous page.
Oh,
Yeah.
Where is it?
Had that at 15.
Page 9.
Page 9, right
Oh,
towards
yeah,
the
right
bottom.
before it. Yep.
15,000.
Yeah, 15.
15 even, Corey?
Make a motion to change line 2724 athletic transportation at LMS to 15,000.
Which is a $514 increase.
Thank you.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
All right. And then in GMS,
That's a co-curricular, and actually that was probably the closest of the bunch. Because I came up with 58, it's 5738 is what they have in there currently.
you came up with the same number?
I came up with 5,800. They had 5738.
Because Scott did the 20, but he didn't do the extra. All right. So you're increasing it by
62 bucks.
bucks.
Yeah, I'm sure we can
What's
find
the number again?
$60.
57.
We just leave that one.
But at least we're then in a
I'll make a
mode,
motion
right?
to increase GMS co-curricular transport to 5,800 for an increase of $62.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. That's all the transportation, right? Yep. So do we have anything else for sports for Josh before he goes? Anyone? I think the only thing that I want, and I'm sure you probably already heard it from Bill, the board has for years like questioned fundraisers that are going on and the numerous amount of fundraisers and where does the money go? But at least we got some clarification starting like last year because they used to go door to door, all the different sports.
Yeah.
And first question I would ask them, I'd always buy the cards, whatever, I don't care, but what are you collecting money for? Baseball. What are you going to get with it? Equipment. I go, let me get this right. You got your glove. You got your glove. You got your bat. We give you the helmets. It's like, what do you need to buy?
Yeah.
And then it's like uniforms. No, we buy the
Nope.
uniforms. So, we ask to make certain that once a fundraiser has been established, what are they fundraising for? And every kid goes out and sells, they should know what they're selling it for.
No, that's fair.
And I know there's always like different extras for different sports, but is there always really a need for them to go out and fundraise year after year?
I think from what I've seen so far is a good amount of them are fundraising to get their team sweaters, their team backpacks with their numbers on them,
Right.
and stuff like that.
I
So I
would,
think
I,
that's a big part.
I would prefer, because our town is so small and everybody gets hit up for every fundraiser that's out there. If a team wants to buy a sweatshirt or a jacket or a fleece or a hat or whatever, the family should pay for it. The kids should pay for it.
that's what I thought like you, at the beginning of the year, they sent something out, your spirit wear. So I bought the soccer hat. I
Yeah.
bought the I don't know
where that went.
the water buffalo. That was a huge fundraiser for
Yeah, that
football.
kind of thing I can totally
Yeah,
understand.
but I don't know about anything else. Like I know soccer doesn't do any fundraising.
Yeah, they do.
Not my boys doesn't.
Boys do.
Pros do.
Girls do.
Those
Yeah.
Well, give us some of your money.
So that kind of thing, like, I'm a band mom. So my kids, were in the band. So they do a fundraiser where you can buy the spirit wear.
Yeah.
But if my daughter wants a performing arts sweatshirt, we buy it for her, I just think, and
Just, I mean, I've been saying it since I got on the board 2 years. I think there just needs to be a process they go through to get approved. Because it's just everywhere, you know, and it just seems they're just grabbing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think,
And I don't even know if you or Jared knew what they were getting. That's the thing that bothers me a little bit. It's just, it seems.
Well, from the 2 months that I've been here, it's been a lot of what you were saying. A lot of I've seen backpacks, team shirts, team sweaters. That's been major.
I agree. It just seems.
Because it's not even necessarily for the sport. It's for their
it's a
personal
lot.
gear.
Yeah.
But some of it, I will say, some of it is personal gear, but some of it's been warm ups. So I know the girls soccer team, they went and all bought with fundraising. They bought team warm ups together. The football team bought weightlifting shirts together. So that's where some of it's coming from, where it would be different than just buying a sweatshirt that says,
Yeah,
Campbell football.
I can see that, but that seems to me like a nice to have,
yeah,
And we do it. I mean,
you know.
we do it. It's just. We do
Yeah,
it. Like,
we do it. Yeah.
I paid for this. The girls
Yeah.
paid for theirs.
So here's the thing. Like you talk about like warm up, sweatpants and sweatshirts. Warm up for what? Because they don't wear them. They warm up in their shorts.
I just don't want to, and is me more or less just playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
I don't want to get into a position where 19 of the 23 kids have the money to purchase the stuff, and then they're left out because they can't afford the $40 sweatshirt because they don't have the money at home, and then 19 of the 23 players are running around wearing the warm-ups,
I thought
but
about basketball.
then they're left out. I don't want to be in that position.
I can understand that concern too. Absolutely.
That's a challenge.
Could they? I don't know.
I'd just like to see a cutback. You know, have
Yeah.
something where it's not every
Just get more
team.
controls over it.
Yeah, every team, every
Yeah.
season, ongoing year after year after year after year. I mean, no offense towards it, but I buy that for my neighbors or whoever. I buy the little cards. I throw them in the counter. We take them out. When we buy the next one. Throw the one we never used away. And I mean, I hate to. It's just.
Well, that might be it too. Like, maybe if it was something else aside from those little plastic
Different things.
placards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't even read.
You never use them.
No.
I know.
You just never use them. So if it's something that would be like worthwhile, it'd be like one thing. I'd rather like get a calendar. You have chances to like win something. It's like,
Even that, I approached the wrestling coach last year and I said, "Look, I'm moving. If we need some heavy bodies to move my stuff, and if you can get the team together, we
love
can
that.
decide on a day. I'd love to hire the team instead of a moving company." And I never heard back.
Lacrosse used to do grounds. Didn't they move
Yeah.
stuff and stack wood?
I think something like that.
Yeah, they do all sorts of-
Now, what happens if a kid gets
I
hurt
have a
doing
wood.
that?
I have a
Right,
wood
yeah.
that has to be stacked.
so it's like baseball. And I know that they're required, or they have been in the past. I don't know if it's still the case because I've known a couple of different baseball players. And they basically told you got to sell 20 of these cards.
Yeah.
25 of these cards.
Yeah.
Whatever. So that's a lot of money for the baseball team to collect.
Mhm.
And what do they buy?
Right.
Well, they say sell 20 of these cards. I got the report from, I don't know what team it was, maybe 3 of the 20 people are actually selling 20 of the cards. You get one kid who sells 30, and then the rest are selling single digits. So
Yeah.
But then the
you're
whole
not
team-
getting 400 cards sold between the
Right.
20 kids. You're probably maybe getting 200.
But then the
cards.
drawback to that is what happens is that then they still split it equally amongst the team,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
which
and,
is wrong.
And the team is only getting 50% of the sale price of those
What was
cards.
that thing they did last year that drove us crazy? Paid for the uniforms.
Snap, right? No, that's-
Snap,
Yeah.
Snap raise.
Snap.
Like, I'd
craze.
almost rather
Collecting
honest-
email
It was
addresses.
collecting email addresses
Yeah.
to buy uniforms.
Honestly,
That
I'd
sent
almost
him over the
rather.
edge.
I'd almost rather instead of the little cards, see something like buy an ad. You put together. If we have the printers at the school, you put together something that has the kids'
We don't have
uniform
those.
numbers, their schedule, whatever in their bio, and you just put it. Great job, good luck this year, Bill. Mr. and Mrs. Myers, whatever.
Or
pay
a
$20,
seasonal
you get-
program that
just-
you can
yeah.
sell at each
That's
of
what I'm
the
trying
games.
to say. Yeah.
There's lots of
You don't have to
stuff.
sell.
That
it,
would have
you
been
just,
nice,
You
yeah.
put the ads in there, and people see it. At least
Oh, right.
seems like we're giving back and taking. from the community.
So I think the point is, I mean, we've been looking at this and struggling with it for a couple of years. It's at least we're getting a little bit of like background to what it's being used for.
Yeah.
But I think if you start looking at it, you're going to see that like, what are we really selling this stuff for? And like someone said, we're making 50% on it. So is there something else we could do that we're making 75% on or 100% on?
Okay, I like the program idea.
Mm.
We can do that, and we're essentially making 100% profit outside of printing the programs.
Yeah.
You know, that'll like go up and buy like a couple $100 gift cards or $25 gift cards and then sell chances to like win those gift cards.
Yeah.
At least your own.
Basketball.
Laminated rosters would be good for people,
The cow
just, you know.
I love that thing.
Oh
I
my
don't wanna
gosh,
Open a
yeah.
can of worms, but what is the deal with charging with games? I know they charge for basketball games. It's the Booster Club gets that money.
We never talked about this. Yeah. We left it with the Booster Club. If they want to charge for football games, go ahead and charge for football
Okay,
games. But they're not doing it.
why can't we?
We who?
Can't the sports?
We could.
Not good.
The athletics.
And we have
department. Have it go back to the
Basketball,
athletics
right?
department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
But
we
we
the
have-
boosters charge for basketball. It's only like a couple bucks though.
I don't know. I don't
They
know if
charge
it
for-
was
I don't
Boosters.
think so.
It was us.
I thought it goes back into the gate
Because
receipts.
it was
Dawn
Marissa
and-
sitting there and Don sitting there collecting the money. Boosters, they tried to do some raffle stuff, 50/50s and those things, I think. But we still have that gate receipts account.
Yeah.
You know, with, I don't know, $4,000 to $6,000 or something in there.
Mhm.
You know, that we don't quite know how to spend it.
We have new,
We'll talk
we have
about
fresh blood
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Fresh-
Well, that's where
Yeah.
Right.
we did that test at homecoming to see
Yeah,
what we were going to bring in. Because I've read a couple reports and I've talked to some ADs, and
I can see Perez wearing shooting t-shirts out in the audience. He would love that.
Yeah, do
for
we have a
basketball
t-shirt
game.
cannon yet? I've been advocating for that for years.
What?
A t-shirt cannon.
Canada.
We had one. Campbell had one. They had one.
did we really?
Yes.
That's not a liability.
Nate Cooper
Yeah, yeah.
probably knows what it
If
is.
someone gets hit.
Don't give that to the Hirschberg.
I'm not worried about the price. Someone gets hit by a t-shirt case. I'm more worried about that.
Right around the field.
Well, wasn't it you, Rob? Someone said that we could build up the excitement for of what's going on in Litchfield on Friday night. How many kids show up for basketball games that there's a lot of potential there, but that's probably the booster clubs.
But just food for thought, some, you know,
Yeah.
keep on.
We're expecting great things next year, Josh.
Yeah.
Yes,
This year doesn't matter?
This year matters.
Yes, it does.
it does matter, but I mean, we just threw you into this and
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Like I said, I mean, Jen has been a huge help, my new assistant, but we're kind of trying to iron out everything. And
get a system.
I'll be able to get you much better numbers by June.
Good.
Once there's a whole year,
Yeah.
so we know where everything's kind of being
There's always a learning
divvied up.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming in.
No, I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Since Bill is here, I think we want to just touch on CHS if anybody has anything on here.
So I can clarify a couple of things, just so we cleaned up some of the language, some of the word, putting the word toner in with the library budget. We add the information on the poster boards and the Post-its, so that's much more clear. We switched over the PE textbooks to software, put it in the right account. Sean McDonough provided me a list of supplies for his project Lead the Way and ICT Pathways, and some of that is required supplies for Project Lead the Way computer science course. So there's significant numbers there. I also got the database usage numbers to Michelle and Mike. So you should have that information at some point here. The only thing that was kind of concerning to me is one of our databases, InfoBase, which is controversial issues in American history. We had like 5 students access that. And it was a new one we brought in this past year. So I'm not quite sure what the numbers are with that. And usually that's something that's research-based and kids are doing writing projects and things like that. So, but the rest of the numbers were pretty strong numbers for EBSCO and Gale and InfoBase.
Can you tell what students actually looked at it or just students and hits?
No, but if you're looking at EBSCO, you're not looking at sports articles typically, you know, and same with Gale, World Book. And the one that was actually kind of even more surprising was Teen Health and Wellness, which had 300
That's
hits.
Shannon
going in there.
Zepan.
That's Shannon, absolutely, with the health classes. Yep. So those numbers last year look good, and they look good this year too. And a lot of that is depending on what time of year it is and what teachers are doing in their classes. I've been looking into the Enders 3 3D printer. What we put in the budget was what was recommended by Jason in IT. So I haven't had a conversation with him on. No, I anticipate having a conversation with him on that to figure out if this would be a better program to work with. And I think that clears up most of the things that you questioned.
So I did have a question about the 3D printer for ICT Pathways.
Yep.
There's another 3D printer in the Learning Commons, correct?
There's two additional ones in the school.
There's two. in
Yeah,
the
there's
school.
one as part of the first robotics
I
program.
think so. I think there's one.
Okay.
And then there's one in the Learning Commons in the makerspace. Okay, so if kids want to do some 3D printing there, they can use it within the Learning Commons.
Can I ask about what is student medical 5-drawer locking fireproof file cabinet to hold student medical records?
Sure. That's in the health
I'm
office.
sorry, on page 25.
That's in the health
24.
office.
Station to use.
Rachel needs a new
File cabinet?
strong, good file cabinet for student records. In health records, you have to lock them up.
Right.
So her, one of her other ones, is the lock is broken on it, and so she can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
So she needs a new locking file cabinet.
Trauma first aid station.
That is a medical trauma bag, for if we have someone who breaks a leg or who has a real serious injury where your regular medical tag won't work. Bring that to the site until the EMTs or medics or whoever comes.
Makes sense.
Anyone have anything else for the high school? No.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, actually, I have one thing. I don't know if you're in here. Do you have Linda?
I knew
Well,
Linda was
I've
gonna
I've
come
got some
up.
information on that. That is a software program that allows teachers to access tutorials for changes in technical programming. So if you're looking at digital graphics, for example, Paula Berry's course, for her to find updates on things, one, she could go out and buy the manual, or two, she can go online and look at this. What I found out though is, looking at it today, is it's not as expensive as it shows in the budget. It's $19.99 a month, okay, which is about 200 and, depending, you go over full.
Wasn't,
It's in there for $375.
Is that Linda though?
That's lynda.com. Now, the challenge with lynda.com is you have to get a LinkedIn account with it. But this is not for students to use. This is for the teachers to access. So Jason was still looking into that again. He was still really skeptical about it. So I left it in as information access fees. But if you don't see the value in that, I mean, we could tell the teachers, buy a manual.
It's not the value, it's not the value, it's the, he was saying he wasn't
It's a
certain.
security
it was
issue.
The law would allow it, he said.
Yeah, and I think the concern with that is students' personally identifiable information. The students wouldn't be accessing it. That's where the sort of counter argument from the teachers is.
did someone find it in the budget where it is?
Oh, I
It's in
saw it a
it's in two
second ago.
places. It's in the digital arts, and it's also in the computer education. So the digital arts is early, I think.
So tell me,
Oh, Linda, too?
so this is, I'm just trying to wrap my head around what Linda does. And,
That's so funny.
yeah, what does Linda do? And,
It does
and
nothing.
if there's another way to find out that information.
Well, and that's one of the things I ran by one of the teachers
Yeah.
yesterday and said, are there other ways? I don't know. I don't have time. I'm really frustrated. This is a nice. So
Yeah.
I think it's a convenient, useful tool for them to use. So I can't disagree with them using it. The concern is whether students are accessing it and they're not. Yeah.
So I found it in digital arts.
What page is that?
What?
It's on page 12 on the bottom.
Okay.
If it's $19.99 a month, is that per user, or can you get like a school account where everybody?
That
in the school
is
can use it?
per user.
And how many users do we?
It would be
Huh?
three. It's two technically, but I think there would have to be three different accounts. But I'm not even certain of that. I think it would be definitely two.
Mhm.
And there's something along the lines of 16,000 different tutorials you can access through this program.
So aside from that one,
Yeah, it's also in the computer education.
Oh, there it is.
where is that?
I've gone through this too many times.
It's into the technology budget.
That's in technology.
Or is it the business?
No, it's the computer education line.
Oh, okay. Oh, page 13 and then page 14.
That sounds correct. Computer education goes from 13 to 14, yep. So if you look, it's in the
There she is.
information access fees 3, lynda.com for accessing the tutorials.
So we have 3 in there?
There's a total of 4. There's 3 in computer education and 1 in the digital arts,
No, the other one in digital arts.
and then 3 in the computer education.
And do we need 3 in there?
Yeah, how many computer
I don't
teachers do
think
we
so.
have?
I don't think so. I think I think he may be doing it by course, okay? So that for computer science, you would need one. For ICT pathways, you may need one, and for digital publishing. So I don't know.
Okay, I guess I don't know. What I would like to know is it, I don't know. So if it's one teacher, they should be able to are they able to access all of the tutorials, or is it like a certain subscription for each course?
That's, I'm not certain of that.
Okay.
I wish I had the answer for you on that, but I can.
And just to ask Bill, has the teacher been informed
Yes,
he cannot use it allow students to access it? Only
yes,
for
he
his-
is well aware of that. But I understand Jason's reservations too.
Yeah.
But the kids aren't supposed to access this.
And I guess my other question, if we cleared it with Jason that he won't shut the site off, we'll pay for it, and then he said shuts the site off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
he doesn't feel it's safe for the.
Yeah, no,
I think if it's a concern for students to have that connected to their social media, I would say it's a concern also for
they won't be
teachers to
accessing,
have.
they
it.
should not be accessing it. It's a teacher account. The teacher has to create the LinkedIn account to access it. And this is where one of the challenges with one of the teachers was, I don't want to create a LinkedIn account.
Right.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Yeah, so I understand your concerns about it. I'm torn.
So just looking at it, it looks like they just show almost like videos, PowerPoints that
Yeah.
are part of a lesson. So they can show the student doesn't access it.
Right.
I guess my only concern would be is if Jason was going to shut it off and we're paying for it, if he's not going to allow access.
Yeah.
I spoke with Jason briefly in the hallway passing, and we talked very briefly about it. He was going to be checking in the technical requirements of the site again, but he still had strong reservations about it.
How long have we been using it?
I think this is going into the 3rd year.
It's at the bottom.
Might be the
Well,
second.
he was saying, I think it was not connected to LinkedIn previously. It was a
Correct.
standalone company, and now that it's connected to
I just
LinkedIn, you gotta
I'd
use it.
hate to gut somebody's curriculum before Jason gets a chance to figure it out myself. I mean, if it's.
We're not making a decision to turn it off right now. This
No,
is
but
for
I'm
next
just
year.
saying,
Right.
I'm just saying, before we do it, maybe we should give Jason.
I'll
Yeah,
dig
we
at
can
it.
find another
I'll
source.
dig
that-
at it a little more, and that was my concern too, with possibly other sources that they could use for this.
In the meantime, I'm going to start with page 12, 644. I'm going to reduce it by $175. If you're saying it's $20 a month, at least we'll soften the blow if you got to shut the thing down on us.
Page what, honey? I
Uh,
don't know why I called you.
All right,
Bottom
what account?
bottom of page 12, 644,
Okay,
or is it 650?
644.
644.
So I'm going to reduce it by 175 to 200. That's what we're saying the cost is.
Oh, okay, to do one
There.
Oh, I see. Okay.
subscription.
Well, it is one subscription right
The
now. but the price is
375.
too
So
high.
you're reducing it to what? 0?
He's taking it. You're taking it down to 200?
I
Correct.
don't know what you're
So
doing.
I'm taking 175 off.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Is that going to buy a subscription?
It should,
That's one
it should from what we
subscription?
saw today. Yep,
So you're saying that this is 3 as well?
this is
That's
the
one.
one. You'd have to look at the other
On
line
page
for
12,
computer
yeah.
education.
Page 12 is one.
Yep. Then the other one would be on page 13 or
Yeah.
14.
Well,
So
there's a
they're
motion, there's not a second.
375.
Second. Okay. Further discussion?
I am not, so
It's
it's
separate.
$200 per?
$19.99 a month.
Okay, got it,
We have a first and a second.
got it.
All those in
I'm
favor,
good.
signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. 5-0. Now we'll go to 644 on page 14.
Oh, wow. Quite a bit more.
And that's 3 of them. I'm going to reduce that to 600, so I am reducing $540.
I'll second.
So that should be 600.
Correct.
Okay.
Further
I
discussion?
got it right here. I just-
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstain.
And I'll get more information, clarification.
And I want to touch base on this because I know Rod brought up last time, and that's 734, the CD printer
Which line? What page? I'm
on
sorry.
page
Page and-
14.
Yep, okay.
There was talk as far as the price for the CD printer that we could do much better than
3D.
1,200.
Well, no, that,
3D.
I was just saying, in my experience, sometimes the ones that are pushed for education haven't kept up maybe with what's happened. So I if we agree with it, I don't know if I'd cut it until we find out what they're looking
No,
at.
but I guess my question is we have one, we have a 3D printer. Is this the same?
We have two.
It's the same one, and it's
That
what
we already
IT recommended. when
But
we
it's the same one
initially-
we've already purchased.
It's a
That was-
different,
that's
yeah,
what
it's
my
the same
question
model.
was.
same- Yep.
And I know I asked the question on Saturday, but I just want to come back to it again. And that's on page 15, tuition.
Mhm.
Um, And so are these students that are identified already right now
They are.
for next year?
Correct.
So these are students that definitely are going.
So these are actually our current students right now who are attending vocational programs. We're gonna have some age out of this because some are seniors. Okay, but we've got to kind of figure out what that number should look like. We won't know until we have the meeting with the sophomores coming up, which, when they come to juniors, which of those will be going up to junior year. But these are the
juniors
students who
going-
are currently here at Campbell High School.
I think we're gonna see a big push towards vocation. That's where people are pushing. So the juniors go in the morning and the seniors go in the afternoon.
It varies.
So you're assuming a bunch of seniors are gonna go out and sophomores are gonna fill those spots. That's how you got
That's
these numbers.
correct.
Okay.
Yep, yeah. And we budgeted, I think, this year for 40 students, maybe. And so this was, or 38. This was, okay, we have 42 currently. We've got to give ourselves some working point to start with.
Anything else for CHS?
Well, I do. I just feel like supplies are just, so many of them have increased so much compared to what we even spent last year. So on page 1, last year, fiscal year, last year, we spent 13,728.
Mhm.
Last year's, or for the current budget that we're working under is 17,055. So that concerns me. So I actually would like to make a motion. Let me do the math. So I'd like to make a motion that we reduce, that we level fund it. I guess that would be fun. Yeah. Which is a reduction of 1343
Level fund to which number?
to the 17,055.
And I'll second the discussion. Bill, is there anything in there that is, I don't know if you know or not, is new,
No,
different?
no, these are relatively the same things that we've done year after year. The laminated materials are, we purchased a laminator last year, and we're using it quite a bit actually, which is a nice instrument tool to have. So we had actually plenty of materials up there for last year use this. And now we're finding we just need some more, but I don't think there's a whole lot of wiggle room. And this varies depending on the year, you know, really, if you look at those numbers, you know, 15.4 up to 16.4, then back down to 13. I don't think it's unreasonable to go to 17.055.
Has the paper use gone
I-
down
that's
over
the-
the
that was the
years
other thing I
because
was
of
gonna
Google
check.
Classroom? I mean, the high school since 2017, I would assume the paper should go down a little bit.
It was 4,000 last year as well. I haven't seen a significant change.
Well, I actually asked my boys today. It's probably similar at the high school. I said, how many teachers do you have to print out your homework for? One. That's it. So
Yeah.
that has to be down.
Yeah, it's got to
But
be
that doesn't
down
mean the
somewhat.
teachers aren't using handouts in the classroom or. you
Some
know.
are,
Yeah.
many aren't. I mean, a lot of
And
them
that's
are.
also office. I mean, that's office supplies and office
Right,
staff and
right.
records. and
That's
things
all
like
sorts
that.
of things,
Yeah.
yeah.
My concern is still the Scantron forms. Are we still using the Scantron?
We still use Scantron forms. Yes, we do.
There are
It's a nice
different
way to,
size bubbles. You have the skinny ones, the medium ones.
Yeah, I just don't.
you can do some real great DOK 3 and 4 questions with using an objective test with filling things. You know, we've got some teachers who are doing a nice job with that, and we've got teachers who need to step up a little bit, certainly. But you can, and the nice thing about that is kids are thinking, they're thinking deeper at higher levels. But you don't have to read through an entire 7-page test.
True.
Sometimes too.
True.
Yeah, and Mary, and we've been talking with that with Mary.
Okay.
And looking at our exams and what
How
teachers
we're
are giving
doing
kids and
those.
those things.
Okay.
So we have a motion to reduce 610 supplies on page 1 from $18,398 to $17,055, a reduction of $1,343. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. So
All right, one more. CHS Computer Education, page 13, account 610, supplies. Last year actual was $680, prior year actual $1,410. You know, I just think, I feel like the jump is so much
what page you on?
compared to what it,
13?
page
Bottom
13,
of 13.
account
the-
610.
Got it.
So
Really-
Sean supplied me, McDonough supplied me, a bunch of information regarding his, Project Lead the Way, his computer science programming course. And there's one where there's probably about, let me see, nearly, about $1,100 worth of Project Lead the Way recommended material supplies that you purchase for those.
Is that a new expense over last year?
That is a new expense over last year.
Oh, I see.
And if you want, I can pass this around for you to take a look at it if you'd like.
So then, but if it was new so it's new this year, right? So we didn't spend it last year.
Right.
So wouldn't that be 1,100 over the 680 really?
It should be, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think I'm gonna make a motion I feel like 2,750 is still very generous. I'm gonna make a motion to level fund that as well, to bring it down from 3,650 to 2,750.
I will say one of the supplies that he put in there is the plastic for the 3D printer. And I think that's probably around $300
Okay,
for the spooling for that.
yeah.
So if I might just,
I know that goes very far too. I just interviewed Julie Green today and she said she's still on her same cartridge a year and a half later.
but that's different in
That's
the
not
library
normal?
versus in a
High school,
classroom.
we go through
Right.
every month.
Yeah.
I'll second this for
Oh, I
discussion.
see.
I want to say that as, a school board member, I think one of the last places we should be cutting is in computer science education. I think that's important for all of our students and I mean, I don't like to cut supplies for classes at all if it's something that our kids are going to need, so.
$1,700 of it is toner.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's regularly used significant amounts of toner, but
Some of that's for his class, though, his,
computer science
science
and
class.
those other courses.
but
Yep.
does this count graphic design, or is that a different line?
That's a
item?
different course. That's the digital arts.
A lot of toner. Wow.
That's not cheap.
No.
Mm.
We have a motion and a second to,
Is some of that student council?
I would imagine they do put some use to that because, yeah, they're active in his room. But they have their own budget and he spends quite a bit of money out of his budget. I can't see them using his room for much other than printing, but kids will use printers all around the school sometimes if they need to
Yeah,
print things
yeah.
off.
Do they have access to color printers? I know we have to release color printer jobs at my school,
They
Only
could
graphic.
through Paula Barry's room,
which is part of the course.
which is,
yeah.
and that's the challenge though too, is
They're in graphic design.
getting
yeah.
access to teachers when they're available versus when they're teaching. Yeah.
so we have a first and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of level funding 610 supplies for CHS computer education to 2750, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Fails 1-4.
Sorry, John.
It's okay. All right, my next one is page 15. Account number 610, again, supplies. For the past 3 years, actual, it's all been less than $1,000.
Yep.
Budgeted, 655 last year.
Mhm.
He explained that when he's doing the mock accident this year for 1,000.
Yeah, the increase all for the mock accidents.
Correct. It's an increase to mock accident. It's supporting a new clubs, the Art Honors and Watts, and it's also the portable PA system. That's the big one, is the portable PA system, which is, we budgeted for $1,000.
You know what I would love to see on these, maybe going forward, is if something is new, like code it with an asterisk, or if something is a one-time cost, like identify that as another way, because a lot of this, it's hard to tell. I mean, you can't tell
Yep.
what's new, what's not.
For the most part, those are outlined in the summaries
Yeah, there were
Summaries
some
you
of
gave us.
that in
principals
summaries.
gave us.
I did not put that specifically in the summary, but I can,
Right.
working with Elena.
I
that
think
won't
those
be-
were cost over $1,000. Yeah.
That won't be a challenge to identify those things that are new.
All right, let me see if I have any others then. Let's see. That was that. That's addressed. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Page 26. Account. Yep, page 26 under furniture replacement, account number 737.
Mhm.
What is the 3358 for?
This,
Place current.
so when
Mobile
we
shelving.
transition to the new learning commons, one of the things you have in old libraries is stationary shelves of books. So this is a mobile shelf of books that you can move around and thus change the space of your library to move groups of desks in that area and chairs and tables or whatever. It's to display books at the front of the library so that when she gets new books in for students to use, to display them there. It just makes the library more.
So when you walk into the library and you go you look to the left, the
Yep.
bookshelves are there. Are those mobile or are they not
No, they're
mobile?
not.
Nothing's mobile there.
Nothing
Not
is
mobile.
Right.
Okay.
So the idea would be, she's already begun culling some of the old books that aren't getting used. So she's done a great deal of that. The idea then is to take one of those stationary sections there, pull it out
Move it
and
around.
start using the mobile ones. And
Okay, got it.
How much have you spent on furniture? Because I was adding up furniture at another school and it was over like $40,000 in replacement. How much have you spent at
I
the
think- I
elementary,
think
at
last-
the Campbell?
last year was about 12.5.
And the year
maybe.
before was like 8? Was it 8?
Yeah, it was about 8,000.
So you spent
Yep.
like 20.
20. And then we're looking at this, and then we're looking at the desks and chairs or whatever
Yep.
that might be for room 145.
34, 45. I think Julie's done a wonderful job. I'm going off script, sorry.
Compliments are never off script.
It just looks so awesome. It would be nice, you could have more faculty meetings there if you could push everything to the side and, yeah,
Yeah, we've gotten better at that,
yeah.
but there's still a little bit of a way to go.
No,
That's
sir?
all. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else have anything else for CHS? All right. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We're gonna go through school by school and then by,
New Devon first.
yeah, good.
Hi, Devin.
Hi.
Thank you for coming in again. Anyone have anything for Devon?
I do. Devin, what, the $6,000 for training for special ed teacher, what is that? The very first thing in the budget?
So the very first thing is for specific trainings that I'm asking them to go to. The funds that are in their collective bargaining agreement are for things that they select to go to, but there's certain areas of training that I need to send them to. So it could be for reading, it could be math, it could be behavior.
So is that to pay them or is that to pay for the
No,
courses?
it's to pay for the training.
Can you give an example of? what you- I know we used it, I'm just trying to.
Like CPI training or,
We sent, we had a team of teachers that went to a specific learning disabilities training. It was like a 6-day throughout the course of a full year training series. We've had certain trainings on math. I'm trying to think.
Wilson.
8 years.
What's that other one you talked about? The one that's named after a person?
Linda?
No, not Linda.
Where's Linda moved on?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Not LLI. It's, I don't, oh, what, it's named after a person?
Yeah, I thought it had a name. It was named after a person. Not Wilson.
So there's been different things that
Yeah.
have popped up over the years, so depending upon what the student needs are and what our teachers' toolbox are equipped with, then we'll look for trainings that we can send them to.
And it can be case specific. You get an individual child who has a need, and then it's like, we got to target this to staff. So, when you look at the
And some of the more
expenditures.
specialized trainings are really expensive.
Yes, they are.
So that's why we put that in there. There are times that I can, if I have grant funding, I can utilize grant funding for certain things, but
Is that why we didn't spend it in 2019?
yeah, we had some grant funding that I used for,
I guess my only concern with that is no other departments have that, and it is collective bargain. I guess I just struggle with that when we're, and I know there's needs for special ed, but when we're setting that money aside for training that's not available. So they could use their $1,600 that's collectively bargained and then get potentially another $3,000 in benefits. It's needed. I'm not saying it's not needed. I struggle where it is collective bargain that we're having almost like a special line for the same thing in a budget. To me, it seems like it should be coming out of, like, I guess, in almost Mary's budget, or it should be, it just doesn't,
Professional development.
I just don't, yeah, I guess it's professional development and that's collectively bargained. So you're almost creating
Well, not all of it.
a separate category of teacher. And again, it goes back to that other 6,000 we have that, what's our standing when the history department shows up and says, we want $6,000 to go to special training? These things just bother me a long time from a grievance standpoint, that we're creating like a second level of collective bargaining without collective bargaining.
So someone from the history department can say, well, I want all of the teachers to meet after school and I want $6,000
Yeah.
to pay for them.
Or I want to,
Well, but to keep the two separate, because this really is the training piece, and this is when the school.
no. But if,
Come back to the other one though.
but yeah, the other one we can come back. But if as a social studies teacher, if I come and say,
Nice talking with you.
yeah, you too.
You're lucky you didn't say something else.
If anybody knows.
And I guess for me, these funds are not necessarily just for the special services department. This is, if we have specific student needs where I need to expand training to anyone, then I have the funds available to be able to pull somebody in to do the training, to send people to a training, versus I can't tell them this is how you're going to spend your allocation.
Because that's not only to send somebody out. I mean, let's say as a science teacher, I had a student with specific learning disability. You might bring somebody in who works with me on how to implement something in the IEP, especially if it was beyond kind of a
regular
normal
teacher?
situation. I guess even the case manager might be overwhelming.
I think it just goes back
it
to
allows that opportunity.
Newsella. They're using that heavily at the middle school. All funds are used, and they come to the whole team comes to us from 6th grade and says, we really want to become experts on Newsella, or actually even better, we want to become Google certified.
Yep.
And they come to us and say, we want to become Google certified. We know the money's gone, but they've got it. We think we deserve it too. We'd like to. This is one of those things I just don't know if it belongs where it is. If it potentially could lead to problems eventually.
I think the one thing that happens is that, so I often look at Mary and go, can you help me out? Because all the money's at Mary's lines,
Yeah.
right? So it's one of those, we've got this idea, how do we do it? And Devin, I'm sure you go to Mary a few times with, can you help us out with this thing? So I think this was an effort to get it earmarked toward special needs. But I mean, we could always, if you'd rather see it all reside in one spot, that would be okay. But I do think there's a big distinction between the money that is contractually promised to a teacher
Yeah,
that they
exactly.
get to ask for versus the district saying, we really need you to do this. It's two different tiers.
Is this something you could use on their PD days? Like, would this come out of, if you wanted to have someone come in on a professional development day, they could tap into this money?
Then I can use these funds. Yep.
Does Mary have a pool right now?
Well, the workshops went from $302 to $14,900, but she switched the line in Mary's curriculum.
So
I think
looking
she
at the
said
curriculum
She
budget,
switched the line.
if you go back to it, want to make sure I'm representing her lines correctly. So the first line on conference workshop reimbursement,
And I think she took a lot of that from line 320 in district professional development, which went from 22.5 down to 0.
last year.
Yep.
Yep.
I think she
Exactly.
switched that. I think I don't know if I can do something. I'd feel more comfortable making a motion to zero out line 272 under special ed, and maybe a second motion for next year, put extra 3,000 into district-wide conference workshop reimbursement. If we earmark it as a special line, I don't know, for 3,000.
It's not reimbursement though.
True.
It's district funded professional development.
I think,
So where do we have monies for that right now?
Well, it's a 272 line that you're proposing to cut. So if you're moving,
So there's a 272 line on page 1 of Mary's.
right, which is the more generic line. If you look at
And
if you look at the back of her page,
And I guess my question, Mike, if you added a line there, could you label it basically like if needed for special education?
yeah, we could add a note in.
But if not, like they spent 0 last year, why wouldn't we send 4 teachers to a Google workshop if money was available? I don't like creating that second different tiers of teachers based on departments with monies that might or might not be used. That's my concern with that.
Yeah, I think, and how much you're proposing? You're
I was thinking
proposing-
I'd make a proposal to zero out the 272 under special education, and maybe based on the last 3 years, cut it in the middle, do like add 3,000 to 272 under
Conference workshop.
conference workshops in Mary's budget, under 272 in Mary's budget.
with another line in the note.
If we can,
saying-
I mean, I think that's up to you guys how you'd
Yeah.
add it, but
I think we can make that work.
Why would you have to add another line though?
because I think it would be important, like Mike said, that maybe that money's held for a set period of time in case there is a need that moves into the district. And then Mary can use it for training she needs if the money's not used.
We can just call it, instead of training for special ed teachers, it could be training for specialized instruction or something that Mary understands where it's come from. What I worry about, Rob, just with the budget committee, make sure we're ready to advocate, because they're already looking at this big increase from 302 to 14.9. Now it's going to be 17.9.
Well, I think honestly, I think that's an easy one because you just go down to that where Mary pointed out.
Yep.
What was the line?
But we just have to remember, we
20.
cut it in others. So
Yeah.
we're not just consolidating within Mary's budget, we're consolidating
in other
across the
budgets.
budget. Because it looks like a big uptick when it's not, it's really not. It's actually a net loss, right? So,
Well, no, the line you're gonna put it in is actually $5,000 down from last year,
which one's that?
272.
No, 272 under
No, see, that's
Mary's budget.
that's the specific LEA and that's the union lines,
Okay.
Brian.
On the front of that.
It's on the
page.
first page.
On the first page at the
the
top,
top.
it's only up 100. Now it's going to be up 3,100.
Okay.
It's that top line.
6,100.
Right, so now you have 3,100, but yet the other one's gonna be down 6,000.
But it's easy to lose track of something down on another
Right.
page when it's up on, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just,
Well, in your description, you just make sure you put in the description that.
Yep.
Um,
transferred from,
so I would probably reduce the first one to $1. And that way you can make a notation there as far as,
Okay.
you leave it as a placeholder.
So do I amend that or no?
Well, you haven't made a motion yet.
Can I do both together or do I have to do them separate?
he can do both, can he?
Just
Okay, so I make a motion to reduce the special education programs, line 272 to $1 and increase, now we're doing the first line under improvement instruction, 272
Correct.
to $3,000.
Which is gonna raise it to 17,900.
I don't. Didn't we just lose $3,000
Yes.
I was asking because
So we
it's based
reduced
on,
to 3,000?
I'll second. Any further discussion? So with it, that means that then Devin is gonna be looking at Mary when she needs monies. So she may even in turn still end up spending the $6,000 if need be, but that's gonna be Mary's determination and
That's right.
as far as where that money's go.
When can I amend a motion? Can I do it now?
Friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment? I don't mind moving it, but I'd like to keep it at 6,000. Because I think we need to make sure money is there to train our special ed teachers.
So you're making a motion to change the motion.
Making a motion to amend the motion to keep the total amount for the special education line 272 at 6,000 and move the 6,000 to the improved instruction line 272.
Someone want a second?
Okay.
Hearing no second.
Back to the original motion.
Yep.
Okay.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. 500. All right. Oh, that was the first line. So, I have a question once I find it. So my question for page 7, 330, professional services. Now, I know that hiring out a psychologist is much more expensive. And we've already gone through it. We can't find one. And that's why we hired the other person. I'm not sure exactly what the title was because we crossed it out and changing it. But like in years past, let's say our average is $20,000 for a psychologist. But that we'd already had one in-house, and that's like additional psychologist hours, correct?
It's not, so we lost the school psychologist position. So in her role, she did all of the cognitive, adaptive, social emotional testing, wrote reports. Then she also provided the IEP specific services for counseling. When we couldn't fill the position, we had to contract out. And so the costs are extremely high.
Yeah.
So if I were to have somebody fill contract-wise full-time, it would have been well over $100,000, probably up near 100 and
This is also for
30,000.
reevaluations too. This isn't just kids who are referred for special.
No, I know it's
ed.
more expensive. I'm just trying to get a hold of
So
like,
what we,
because we're paying someone else $50,000 in salaries or 60, whatever, I can't remember what the number is. And then there's 55 on top. So we're talking like we're paying 110 right now.
right, but if I contracted with a school psychologist to do everything 5 days a week, it would be more than what we're paying to contract and
Right.
hire the individual.
So again, not knowing, so if you can just explain it, we have a school psychologist in both GMS and LMS.
Yes.
We can't utilize them to do this.
So we had, when I first started here, we had 2 school psychologists, and we had one at GMS, one at CHS, and then they shared the middle school. But not only, the model just didn't work out from a student service perspective and being readily available in the buildings to meet the mental health needs of the students, but then also in getting the assessments done and being readily available for the schools. So a couple years into me working for the district, we moved it to 1 school psychologist per building. And seemingly that has worked. They're able to fulfill the evaluation load, the counseling load, and so forth. Until we had the resignation this summer, then with it being a critical shortage area. We had in the spring talked about using the grant funding to bring on a mental health clinician, just due to the mental health needs of students identified and not, just students in general. And then when we couldn't find a school psychologist and we contracted, we were able to hire for mental health. So that took care of the IEP counseling needs that we had. So then we used the grant funding to pay for the school psych contracted services.
So ideally, for next year, will we be looking to fill the school psych position or the mental health clinician position?
We'd be looking to maintain the mental health clinician position and contract for the school psych.
Why is that?
One, just even in the few short months that we've had, the availability that the staff person has had in meeting the mental health needs of the students and being available to staff and so forth has proved to be beneficial. But at the same time, I was hesitant to, and I think I stated this on Saturday, that if we put a mental health clinician forward and it had to be a warrant article and it doesn't pass, and I can't fill a school psych position, which is highly probable, just giving the critical shortage area, then I'm stuck because I don't have anybody to service the mental health needs of the students. So if we maintain the mental health clinician piece, we have the needs of the students being met, the counseling needs being met, and then we have somebody contracted just for the school psych.
Right.
But if
Evaluations.
you could next year hire a school psychologist, you'd just be right back to where you were last year, right?
Right.
So why would you need a
except-
clinician then?
Except when I had proposed a mental health clinician using the grant funding in the spring, I had come and spoken to you. We have a need, whether they have an educational disability or not, in our high school for a position like this. So the idea was that we would fill it with the grant funding and then it would be put forth as a budgetary need for this school year. So in essence, it would have been, if that had happened, it would be maintaining a school psychologist and bringing on a full-time mental health clinician. So what I brought forward is maintaining the full-time mental health clinician and contracting for
I see.
the school psych
I see.
services.
So is the mental health clinician an improvement over a school psychologist? I mean, I think I hear what you're saying, but I'm concerned
I think
that
that the model was, it was definitely a change because it was a different layout than what we've had. But what I've seen is now we have somebody designated to the mental health needs of the students. And there's not these timelines, evaluations, results meetings, all of these meetings components. So there's somebody that's readily available in the moment. If there's a risk assessment that needs to be done, there's somebody that can
Right.
do it. If there's somebody that needs to be seen and kind of brought back down to baseline, there's somebody available.
I
And
mean,
then the
ideally we
schools-
would have both.
we would
on
have both.
staff.
And so the contracted school psych can come in, do the evaluations, is able to attend the meetings, and then
Okay.
they move on. So it's working in the aspect that we have somebody that's readily available for the students.
Anything else for Devin on this section? So I have to find it now because I know it's salaries and benefits, and that's paras. I just gotta find them now.
I think I was a little shocked by the amount of paras we have at GMS. We have 28 paras at GMS and we have less than 400 students.
And four of those should be the regular ed.
Right, so there are 24 paras at the elementary school. That scares the living heck out of me.
And we do have some that are like 3 hours that work just the preschool hours and so forth.
How
So
many-
they're not all there for.
It just seems like, what is our special ed population in this town?
Could we get a list of it? Could we get a list actually of the teachers, the paras, and the populations being serviced at some point?
From
The three
the
schools?
special ed side, do you want just the special educators?
Yeah, just how many educators, how many paraprofessionals, how many students being serviced?
Yeah, I can edit the chart I have. I have one that goes back to like 2002. So you can see sort of,
Because at LMS, it's gone up $200,000 in paras. The line, I mean, that's a lot. There are 23 paras at LMS now.
Can you point me to the line?
Yeah.
I'm looking on page
On the salary.
2. I'm not sure.
And you
I'm
know
right.
them all about special
I
ed.
just want to make sure we're looking
Yeah.
at the same.
It just
First
really,
five is on page 16,
16,
and it's GMS.
oh, GMS. So that went up, it went down, went up, and up.
All right, so 16, let me go to 16.
Page 16.
Towards the bottom, 114.
God, I'm getting paper cuts. I'm not kidding. All right.
The $14,000,
I guess-
is that what you're referring to?
Are these all one-on-one paras? Are they two-on-one paras? Are they classroom paras? Like, does every classroom have a para? Because it sounds like they could at this point. Would that be easier that we give a para to every classroom?
All of the paraprofessionals are IEP specific. We do have, I can try to give you the breakdown of one-on-one. We have a lot of one-on-one, one-on-twos,
Mhm.
and then small group. But there's no program paras or.
So there is because when I was there was like a third grade para. So it's possible that there could be a teacher and 3 paras in a classroom, a one-on-one para, a two-on-one para. I don't know.
Possible. Our one-on-one paras are really for communication, mobility, and safety.
That I get, yeah.
So I can get you that information, but we have a high need in that realm. And at the middle school, we certainly had an increase with the number of students that have one-on-one para support. So the majority of those are pretty much one-on-one or small group.
Are you still on that page, Brian?
I'm on page 60. Why are you going to LMS?
Oh, no, I'm just waiting for you.
I'm just. I mean, the number's been pretty consistent. It's bumps up and down, but I mean, it's still talking around, the $400,000 range. So when it's one-on-one or one-on-two, again, it's IEP driven.
They're all IEP driven,
Right.
so even the
And I know we revisit those on a regular basis, and that's, I'm sure, the meetings and everything else to determine, is the child still at that point where, we can't like broaden that para, maybe like pick up an extra person.
Because I did notice it did decrease by the high school. Like, there's only 12 at the high school.
Which
And
is
as it should.
fairly typical.
Right, which
you know,
is
yeah.
which is what you want to see.
In a release model, you would expect
Right.
it.
How many are in your school, Liz? And how big is your school?
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
Including one-on-ones and behavior ones? Probably 20, and there are 800 students in my school,
And which grades is it?
6, 7, and 8. We probably have openings for 4 or 5 more because of behavior problems. But we don't outplace. Yeah,
how many specialized programs do you have?
2.
We have 10 and 2.
And that's who, they have the paras, not the classrooms. Every class, the 6th grade share 1 para, the 7th grade, the special ed teachers share a para, and the specialized programs, those are the only kids with one-on-one paras. But that's just a different model. It's up to the director how they do that. But paras are hard to find.
Rob, can you just share with everybody what you just,
Well,
you have
I
how
mean,
many in
they're all
your
different.
school?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, we
I
have
mean, I
about,
know.
we have 9 or 10, and then 2 nurses this year with mobility issues. So 2 nurses and I think
For
lower
student
grades,
population of
about
less than
380.
400.
About 380, yeah.
Well, it's food for thought. I mean, we're not going to cut para positions because they're all
No, they're all,
IEP.
it's all driven by IEP. It's
Just
just,
law.
it just seems like a lot,
It-
and it is a lot. But again, I realize it's IEP driven. So who oversees the paras? So to watch them interact with the student and determine, maybe this para could do more because maybe the student is accomplishing more.
A lot of it falls on the building principal and assistant principal. The special education teachers are obviously there and observing and so forth, but I cannot get in there and observe the paraprofessionals and in the interactions. It falls on
I don't
the,
know if the school psychologist oversees them at different times, the clinician sees them They don't,
No.
no?
Well, I mean, if
How about the
there's
teachers
The
themselves?
classroom teachers, when I was at Campbell, they could do a survey, how was the para in your classroom? And I thought we reported to Mike.
They're not allowed
Perez.
to do any sort of evaluation,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Cool.
or CBA, the teachers.
No, not evaluations, but I mean, they can't give their input.
Job performance?
No,
I don't know.
I'm just watching the interaction with the child and the parent and seeing,
I would hope
Well, we're-
that.
So, but you're talking about, I just want to pause for a second. So I think we're talking about two different things. So providing feedback for evaluation purposes, that's separate. I think the original question you were posing is there anybody that's observing to determine whether or not we can move, let's say it's from a one-on-one, that we could move in this subject area to one-on-two, or maybe in this subject we can do small group.
Okay.
That's really building principal, assistant principal, special education.
Okay. So I go back to the question, tell me if maybe it's CBA. So I'm a teacher in a class. I have a para that's one-on-one or a para that's one-on-two. And I'm teaching these children. She's assisting or he's assisting. And I see that they're both advancing to the point where, yeah, this para could probably handle another child or two.
And then there should be a conversation with the special education teacher to hold a meeting, amend the IEP, and move that.
But who would trigger that meeting? That's what I'm asking.
The
The special
ed
education teacher would schedule the
So the
meeting.
teacher could say to the
But the
special
teacher needs to
That's
provide
what I'm saying.
feedback.
So that's what I'm asking. So
Right.
does the teacher give that kind of feedback? That's what I'm asking.
They should be giving feedback. The case manager should be seeking feedback on where things were at
Okay.
with the student. So the whole approach is to scaffold. So there's going to be some subject areas that might progress more quickly in terms of the level of independence.
I guess I'm
and
just
other
trying
areas
to
that
like
aren't.
grasp like where the communication all comes from as far as like determining that, maybe we can do more.
So, I mean, and our IEPs are a fluid document. They're a legal document, but they're fluid. So whenever there's a change in need, we can have a meeting and amend and so forth.
So with that, since we're going to be talking about later on, the new position that, because again, I don't know the exact, all the steps and everything else as far as special ed and don't understand that. I'm not an educator myself. So now what does a special ed facilitator do? So you mentioned like case manager. So case managers oversee paras?
So special education teachers their role is as case manager. So they are the case manager for students with educational disabilities on their caseload. They will provide direction and guidance to the paraprofessionals on what to be working with the student and make sure that it's being done. They're not, per their job description, do not evaluate the paraprofessionals. But they can direct and provide feedback and make sure that
So they direct.
Wait, who doesn't evaluate them?
the special education teachers do not evaluate the paraprofessionals.
But they tell them what to do
The principal
or get feedback from them.
Principals have to evaluate all the
That's making sense.
or assistant.
or assistant, the admins.
Well, if I'm going into a history class, I report back to my teacher and say, we did this, we did this, we did this. So she knows or he knows what happened in class that day.
So a case manager has a group of paras.
So a
They
case
direct.
manager is a special education teacher and they fall underneath the collective bargaining agreement.
To be clear, though, case manager is not a job title. We have special ed teachers
Who
who
case
manage
manage.
students on their caseload, right? So, and so even then, the feedback is relative to the student performance, right? Yeah. But it's not a separate job.
Can we get back to budget?
Yeah.
Because I think this is a good conversation, but I think it's kind of an organizational thing and does it affect the budget?
Well, it
does.
originated with this position, the special ed facilitator. So just trying to understand the tiers of, and Devin, maybe you can walk us through. I mean, you're the
Director.
director of student services. Walk us through exactly how that tiers down so that everybody understands how it and
Sorry,
where
I
this
forgot that
position would
segue.
fall.
I was still looking at lines.
No, it's the numbers, they start to get you
Yeah.
googly eyed.
Sorry, my apologies. Get back to what you were talking about.
Thank you.
So I'm the director of special services and you can stop me if I'm boring you, but underneath My purview of responsibilities, I have special education. We have 235 students with educational disabilities. I have section 504. Currently, we have about 160 students with 504s.
How many?
160. I have English language learners. So we have 8 students, but their needs certainly vary depending upon their proficiency with the English language. I'm the homeless liaison, so I currently have 8 students in transition. I received the letters for requests to homeschool or terminate homeschool programming. So I think we have about 32.
32 homeschoolers?
Mhm.
Wow.
I'm the court liaison. So anytime there's truancy, delinquency, anything like that, I'm the one that goes to court. The foster care liaison, to which we have a number of students, and then the truancy officer. District-wide, pre-K to 21. And so then at the building level, we do not have any building coordinators, building facilitators, or anything like that. It's the principals, assistant principals, or myself that will sit in on IEP meetings, which happen multiple times for each student throughout the year. So 235 times 1 at bare minimum, 3, 4, 5 at a max for each of the students. And then I case manage 12 students. So the request for a special ed facilitator, I mean, we can call it whatever we want to call it. Really what I'm looking for is somebody to help with the gamut of special services, because each of those facets has a legal responsibility and we can't let any balls drop. And I won't, because I'm not going to jeopardize the education of any of our students. So it's a lot of time and effort and communication and collaboration to make sure that we're doing what we need to in each of those areas. But we're really at a point, I know that it's failed twice already, the special ed coordinator aspect. And I get that. I'm happy to educate, answer questions, explain what it is that we have to do in the realm of special services. But I said the first 2 times or the second time that it failed, that I'll continue to do the job until I can't, because the keeping all the balls up in the air and making sure that everything is in place when it needs to be in place for the students, that's my concern. Because right now and I'm just being honest, I'm at max capacity.
You have been for years.
Is there
So-
anybody you can delegate this to? I mean, there are 6 special educators at the high school. Are any of them qualified to do outplacement or have a background in that? Do you know what I mean? To lighten your load?
They all have a teaching load. They all have a caseload. And so with the out of district meetings, it's traveling there, holding the meeting, traveling back. And at the same time, when you're sitting in as an LEA rep in any of those meetings, you're binding the school district to any financial obligations that are agreed to. So you have to know everything like the back of your hand in terms of laws and legal responsibilities, and be able to,
Jody and Mike do that now. Perez, Mike and you?
Mike and I will sit in on the high school meetings. So, but for the out of district, I'll sit in on those. I guess just my take is there's a lot of, especially with out of district meetings, there's a lot of people at play at the table from the school or from other agencies or contracted service providers. It can be quite a number of people sitting around the table. So we just need to know, whoever is there needs to know what they're committing to when they're making decisions with the team for the student and what they're binding the district to.
Devin, would you say this is an absolute critical need?
I'm
you've
not
said
one
it.
I'm not one to complain. I'm really not. I'll go with the flow. But we've gotten to the point where I've said to Mike, like, I don't want anything to fall through the cracks, because I don't know. I would take responsibility, but
I hear you. I agree with you. I think it's a critical need that we've had for years, and I think I wonder if this is enough help for you. Is need increasing in our district? Are we identifying more and more students all the time, or does it kind of?
I think it was a number of years ago when, so obviously there was a lot of work that needed to be done when I first came on board. And I had stated then that the numbers were going to continue to increase until we sort of hit that sweet spot. And then we would ebb and flow, maybe 10 on either side until we made a significant change. So I'm expecting, or I'm hopeful that with the implementation of full day kindergarten, we might see like maybe by next year, maybe a slower number of rate of referrals at the younger grades. We're not there yet. So our numbers have stayed pretty consistent. However, the level of needs of our students has definitely compounded.
The more severe kind of needs.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, not to make anything light of like an articulation disorder at the younger years. But our students, it's not just one single area. You have specific learning disabilities and emotional needs and communication needs. So there's a lot that's going on, not just with the students, but also with the families. So we have to be able to support the families and navigate them to resources so that they can do the best they can for their child.
I think too, some of the changing needs. I mean, cities like Manchester dealt with ELL population. That is, we're now seeing more and more into Litchfield, right? So I think you said 8 students, but each case is unique. It's not 8 students all speaking Spanish. So when you start to diversify with the various languages, that just adds to the load. The homeless liaison is another piece of it. The laws have changed relative to truancy. So we have greater obligations we need to meet relative to the new school attendance laws. And so overseeing that and coordinating that has taken extra time. So, and in many districts, 504 doesn't touch special ed. Those are 2 very different departments, and you're sort of figuring out what's going on. And the minute it either falls into special ed or 504, and they are really very separate. Districts that I've been in the past, the 504 piece really lies on the guidance side.
It does here.
The school counselors.
Yeah.
will
But
organize meetings.
you're still overseeing those.
yeah.
And so, there is no district-wide coordinator for 504s other than the special ed director. So I understand the counselors are the ones overseeing the implementation, but Devin's still responsible for the oversight of it, right? So, so when you add all those things up, I think it gets us to this position where, every time we get a report from the state, we're in compliance. We're hitting our compliance measures, but it's a matter of time before a ball gets dropped and something doesn't hit. And, frankly, we're hitting those because Devin's on top of it and is juggling all those balls, but it's a matter of time till one gets forgotten or dropped along the line. And, and then we're going to be paying another price for it.
How many hours a week is this position? This is full-time?
I don't know what she calculated for.
Do you remember how Holly calculated this? She talked about it this morning, Corey.
No, I wrote down part-time.
It was part-time.
Like
Part-time.
Yeah.
Because there's
I
no
think
health
she's-
and
No health
dental.
and
it's
She
just
said
all
like
those
29
hours.
weeks or something a year.
Is that enough?
Full-time would be ideal, but I will make whatever work.
Anything else with Devin? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks for taking your time out.
We appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right, so if you want to just begin at the beginning, if anyone has, sorry for a second, building and grounds.
Frank, can I just, one suggestion too, Corey prepared this document detailing changes he had made.
Yep.
I'm wondering if we hit this, if it addresses most of what the board brought up on Saturday. We can still go back through if there's other
Yeah.
stuff we found, but
Can you give us a sheet?
There's
Is there a
copy
sheet
of
up there?
one.
They're up there.
You want to-
Yeah.
Pardon?
It's posted.
It should be in the drive too.
is there a copy of it?
Yeah, there is.
Let me just go through. We're talking about potentially the furniture and the needs that were in the budget for this year for furnishing another kindergarten classroom. And we're not using that. So per the RSA, capital reserves can be established in order to fund maintenance and operational costs. I would consider this an operational cost. We could establish reserve for outfitting the classrooms if deemed necessary to increase the number of classrooms for a particular grade level. I don't think I would want to write a capital reserve and have it be just for kindergarten. You don't want
That's a
to
great idea.
really
Yeah.
hamstring yourself in that way. School board, as with all the other reserves we have, would be the agents to expend. The funding that's in the budget for FY '20 comes up in total to about $28,800. That amount could be earmarked and based on what we'd have to put a warrant article on for March to move these funds into a capital reserve, establish it with the trustees. But we have the money there. And then if we can get the capital reserve established, then we could reduce the budget by the amounts that are in there for FY '21.
But
So it's not something we're bringing forward every year. Now we have the money set aside.
So
What's
this
that?
would,
but the thing is, it would be in the 21 budget, and then it would be on a warrant article for 20.
Well, we'd have to write the warrant article and then reduce the budget for '21 and hope that the article passes and we don't have a need for a fifth classroom anymore,
Well, if it doesn't, then we're looking at $28,000.
right?
Mhm.
So
If we can get the budget committee to recommend that warrant
Mhm.
article, I think that'll help us significantly. Like if they understand what we're trying to do, we've already raised the money for it.
Right.
The gentleman's agreement not to spend it, which we didn't do. And so if we say, look, we have the money now, let us park it in this reserve and we'll happily reduce the ask for next year. The problem we're going to be in is a no vote on it. And then it's not in the budget and you know darn well that's when it's going to go over to 76 on June 1st. And
You'd be looking at $30,000.
exactly.
Yeah. I had a question too. This would be in addition to the capital reserve fund we already have.
it would be, we would establish a new
New capital
capital
reserve.
reserve. So if we currently have 3 now, then we would have 4 we establish this.
But this money would only be earmarked for a new classroom that will come up, let's say come June, also, we realize we need a new fifth grade class. Yeah, we have to outfit that fifth grade class, and now we can utilize these funds, because we're not going to earmark them for just specifically kindergarten.
This is an interest. I don't know if this is possible, but do we have impact fees? And can we use them to put into capital reserve fund? Because that would
We
be
use the
directly
impact
related
fees.
to an
We use
increase
the
in
impact
enrollment.
fees for kindergarten, don't
Families
we?
coming into town, we use them for kindergarten.
Because
Yeah, I
it
think
was
we
an
use
expansion.
all of them.
We use them to buy the portable.
There should,
There might be
it's
a little
possible
in
there
there,
are
but-
additional impact fees.
Well,
So
actually, no, they said they weren't going to fund elementary impact fees this year. They separated school and middle
Yeah,
school.
because we don't
Right.
have
And
a
starting to
plan.
put them in middle school now.
all the enrollments at the elementary, but that's okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So we don't have any impact fees, is that true? Or
Let us ask
Sure,
that
the
question.
current
I don't think
balance is
there's
at
much.
this point.
But we don't get that money, right? The town holds that money
Correct.
Town holds it in escrow.
until it's needed. So we'd have to ask the town how much is in impact fees, but we can ask Troy that question.
it just might be another way to fund the capital reserve fund. Because we can use it for increases in enrollment, that's what it's slotted for.
Has to be an increase in building.
We might not be able to transfer
Not
them
enrollment.
from impact fee account to a capital reserve, but they would still be there so that instead of going to a capital reserve, you could tap into it.
All right.
So that's one. Great East Festival, the cost is $60 per kid. Scott's recommending putting 75 students at $30 per student at $2,250. And that would just be the festival portion. canopy portion would be the responsibility of families to pay
What was-
or
What was the dollar total?
2250.
You had put 4,500 in, correct?
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to reduce.
Which page is it, Brian? GMS?
Wouldn't fall in 610. I wrote on page 6, but I believe it goes page 5, right? Co-curricular activities.
11, 14, 98, 10.
Where would it go?
Yeah, you,
It's on page 6 at the top.
you put it under supplies because it's got,
Okay, so should it
Should be
actually be
under
dropped to like 810?
What account number? Here? Oh,
Yeah, because that's dues and fees.
Dues and fees.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. So make a motion to take $4,500 out of 610 supplies for the Great East.
1 second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Then I'm going to make a motion to add 2,000 what?
2250.
And 250.
$2,250 to 810 for the Great East Festival. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. So if we're gonna go with Corey Sheed, do we want to go back and make a motion or decision what we're gonna do with kindergarten?
Wasn't that a warrant? So we didn't put it on.
Yeah, we would have to reduce
You'd have to reduce the,
everything that's in there for 21. But right now, the monies are in there for 20, which we're not gonna utilize. And those are the monies that would go into the account, but then we wouldn't have it here. It's like a catch 22.
Can I make a suggestion?
Mhm.
Why don't we leave it in the budget and put the warrant to take effect with next year's money? So give the money back this year, leave it in the budget, and put the warrant there. So if we need the 5th class and if it's voted down, the money's there,
And if you put the warrant in right now, the cost is zero to the taxpayer.
but it would still be zero because the money's raised for next year.
Yeah, but then you're going another year.
No, but what I'm saying is it would still be zero on the warrant article because the money's already in the budget. You know what I'm saying? Am I explaining this correctly? So we leave the budget the way it is.
Yep.
And we put a warrant in saying for the 21-22 school year, if we don't have to expand the class, we'll keep the money in a, I don't see how it wouldn't,
but you've
Transfer that
raised, you've
money
raised the
from
money
the-
twice.
Right.
You've already raised it
but
this
we give
year.
it back this year. We put it back in the general fund this year.
Yep.
We keep it in the budget for next year.
So you're
and
raising it
have
again.
to Raise it again one more time and we sell it to them saying it'll still be zero cost. We'll put it in the budget this year. The money went back from last year. That way we don't have to worry this year if we need because the money's there, if we need the,
No, it's there right now unless the.
I know, but I'm
unless
just
the budget
saying.
committee decides to take it out.
it could be a way to avoid any issues for a year.
Yeah, another strategy would be to leave it in, have this conversation with the budget committee,
Yeah.
and get the agreement from them that they're going to support the warrant and cut it out of the budget. Because I really think that
that's the,
with that rationale, I mean, if you get a 7-2 vote on a warrant article like that,
Right.
I'm making that up, a strong vote, then it sends a signal that that's important.
That one could get a 9-0. I mean, honestly, it could get a 9-0 vote. I don't know.
you're never gonna get a 9-0 vote
I
out.
don't know. It's reasonable. So
Yeah.
we could get a 9-0 vote.
That's reasonable to get an 8-0 vote if someone's not there. That's possible. But again, it's money's raised right now, so the tax
No, I
impact-
understand. I'm just thinking a way to avoid any issues next year.
Sure.
Can we just skip it until the next meeting then? or-
No, I think presenting it to the budget committee.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
It's not,
if
not
the board
taken.
doesn't cut it, the board's recommended budget includes it.
Yeah.
But then I think the discussion is, this is what we want to see happen.
Yeah.
And let the budget committee take it as a cut. I mean, who cares about who gets credit for it? The point
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that
Right.
it's the right fiscal thing to do.
Yep.
If we get the positive vote on
Yep.
capital reserve.
Reached out to Schiavi regarding the portables at LMS. He's going to provide me with numbers of what a replacement would look like for that, be it with a quad without facilities in it, or two, and what the lease impact would be. The truth, I mean, the things are outdated; they need to go.
Yep.
But we still don't have room in the building for them, so we might have to do one more Band-Aid. Maybe we can get them updated in the process. Probably will be a little more expensive than what we're paying now, but at
You
least
give
we
me an
know
idea
it.
of roughly how much more it might be.
I won't know until I get back from him. He was accumulating data for me.
Will he come down and meet with us and tour those?
Oh, he knows. He knows because they still do upkeep on them. So like they replaced the roof when we needed to replace the roof. They come down and replace doors that are broken. The only stuff that they won't do is like the outside, the secondary egress, the porches that are on the outsides. We just had to fix those because they were rotted. So anything external is on our dime. Anything with the portable, like if we want to replace the rugs, they'll come down and do it. But you're just band-aiding these old
But
portables.
at their cost.
Yeah.
It'd be at their cost. So we say we
We
want
pay
the
the lease
windows,
payment
we want
to
the windows
cover the
replaced, come
maintenance.
replace the windows. We want it painted. Will they paint it?
They have to resign it.
Right.
They can paint inside.
Yeah.
It's all the
Things look like a ghetto. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. But they're terrible.
You're right.
Right? You drive by those things, it's like disgusting.
I think, Corey, if we can ask Dave Courier to come down and meet with us,
Okay.
just so we can do a walkthrough with him and Dave, maybe even invite a board member, because the optics of it are such, just having the discussion on site with them. And if you look at the amount of money that we spent over the time,
20 years.
it's worth a face-to-face. I just don't want to get an email of, yeah, we'll replace him for an extra.
well when he provides the information, or I'll even follow up on the last email and say, hey, when you have the information, let's set up time to come down and talk about it.
Maybe ask him to bring the original agreement down on it too, because I'd love to see what paperwork
Pay
he has.
forever and ever and ever.
Right. Temporary.
On,
I
yeah, the
can't believe
temporary
we're paying
classrooms.
money for those.
So anyway,
All right.
thank you.
District-wide copiers. So Anne, unfortunately, is on vacation this week. But she has a detail of lease dates and when things are up on certain copiers. Once she comes back, I'll sit down with her. I'll pull Jason in, and we'll go through and figure out a plan and see like if we can go to NBM, which is our new company, and see if they can swap some of these older machines out, get something better in there, and then hopefully with the amount of wear and tear these things get, we can set up some kind of replacement plan with this company. So we have a copier 3 to 4 years, and then they swap it out. We can make sure things are updated and working. The dugouts at CHS, I asked Dave to go back, provide the quote, and get a couple more estimates to see what's in the budget right now is 24,000. The other one he had that I saw was 66, which just sounds outrageous. So he has a couple more companies he can reach out to see.
66,000,
Yeah.
6,600.
So waiting
How
to
many
hear back
How
from
many
him.
dugouts?
There's 4. And the roofs and
Never
the
even
dugouts
noticed
themselves
them before.
are in rough shape,
Yeah.
but 24 to 66,000 sounds a bit
Yeah.
much for an open air dugout. That's my impression. So he's going to follow up on that.
That's to rebuild them totally, or just
No.
the roof?
Then mostly the roof, but they got to redo some of the
But
supports.
then he said he's putting supports in, so it's not rusting on the roof.
Yeah.
That's basically rebuilding them.
Yeah.
I applied the reductions from last week, from Saturday, to those special ed lines noted there. Oil and propane, we got a pretty good amount this year, $2.19.9 for our per gallon price for oil, and propane was down as well. However, I can't go forward with the assumption that those rates are going to stay that low. So I did a review of average 4-year per gallon rates
Hmm.
and usage on each building, and I came up with numbers that would basically what I'm looking for in propane and oil to increase the budget and allocate amount of $9,000. These lines are at the end of every year we are scrambling to find money for it because we don't budget enough. And last year I think this year we'll be fortunate there'll be some money left. Maybe we'll top off at the end of the year and stay in, but I think we need to have enough money in there that we're not scrambling year end.
So you're looking to raise
I'm
each
looking-
school?
What's that?
You're looking to go to each school and raise fuel?
Not 9,000 per school. I have an allocation per school. And some of them are adjusting, like the GMS propane would be being reduced by $430. They only use that for the kitchen.
So when we start, we'll just go right down the line then.
Okay. So for,
This is in
This is
buildings, right?
buildings and grounds.
so for 10, 11, 26, 26, 23, which is propane,
Page?
I don't have budget in front of me.
Got it.
So
What are you under?
4? I think. Yep.
So my calculation would be
Count
reduced.
number.
What's that? 623?
620.
So it's page 4.
Bottled, 62.
Bottled gas.
Yep.
So reduction of that account of $430.
So 5,000, you're reducing 430.
Yep. 4570 would be the revised.
I'll make a motion to reduce 623 by $430.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Then we have fuel oil, 624.
I have the calculation would increase that by $9,475.
I'm sorry, 9.
9,475. So from 45,000 to 54,475.
So we budgeted 54,000 for this year, and then we went down 9,000.
So we're going back up.
But then our actual in 19 was 40,000, was $14,000 less.
No, that was budget.
I'm sorry,
Our
budget.
actual was 73.
74,000.
The initial calculation, I was going based on what we had been approved for in our contract rate for this year, and that's just not realistic.
Mhm.
So what's the price of oil this year compared to last year?
Last year was 24578. This year is 219.9.
So are you going from 45 to what?
54,475. It's our oldest, most inefficient building.
Mhm.
But the oil's costing us 25 cents a gallon less, right?
Yeah, but I can't guarantee that for next year.
That's the problem, Brian.
No, we don't have a contract right now.
Not for FY21. No, we won't set that price until September of next year. So I'm basing it on the 4-year average of what we've been paying per gallon.
Okay.
That's the way it's always been done, hasn't it?
It's hard to tell.
Because some years are colder than other. I remember it always being a big thing at the budget committee, the propane and oil.
Yeah, and it's in the 2 years I've been here, at the end of every year, we need more oil for GMS. We need more, it's always a scramble, and then you're pulling money from places where you would really rather use it.
Yeah.
So make a motion to increase 624 for GMS to $54,475.
Right.
Second. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
All right, so that's GMS. Now we gotta find the LMS line, right?
Page 7 at the top, or second one down.
So for LMS, propane, reduction of $500 to 2,500.
Say that one more time.
I'm reducing the line from 3,000 to 2,500.
Under bottle gas
Yeah.
for LMS? Oh, I'm on CHS.
It's at the top of page 6, actually.
Okay.
Make a motion to reduce LMS line 623 by to $2,500. Actually, did I say that okay? It's not
Yeah.
reducing it by 25, it's reduced to 25.
A
Sorry.
second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
Fuel oil right under it.
Oil increase of 5,000.
By 5,000?
To 45,000, right?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to increase fuel oil by 5,000 to 45,000 at LMS.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
And then there's just high school propane. Reduction of 4,000.
I'll make a motion to reduce 623 at CHS by $4,000, bringing it to 73,280.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
I missed that last one. What were the numbers again? I'm sorry.
73,280.
And let's see. The other thing, and Tara had mentioned this on Saturday, doing a deeper dive into the overall CHS budget. Just haven't found the right reports to run it in such a way that it's going to make sense. So by the 6th, the next official board meeting, I will have something to share regarding that. I do have some ideas in my head of exactly where those differences are, but I just want to make sure I verify the numbers. That's what I have.
I'm sure it adds up, but I was talking to Mike that I looked at like the 17 actuals and I was looking at like the requested 21, and it just didn't seem like add up to like that much of a difference.
For
You're doing the high school?
Yeah,
in total,
yeah.
So I did that, I think.
the actuals are going. It's about what $150,000 to $200,000 difference between
200, yeah.
expenditures and budget from 17 to 21 request.
So one thing I was wondering about is maybe curriculum somehow was put into each school, because that's a $278,000 line item, but that still only makes up $113,000.
Where do you see the 270?
So
Page
fiscal
number?
year 17 for curriculum. Hopefully I typed that right. I just did my own spreadsheet.
Is that in the high school budget, Tara, or in the curriculum budget?
That would be in the curriculum budget. Yeah, there it is, 278,509. And then you could see it goes down drastic, like by $150,000 the next year. So I'm wondering if somehow
There's
those
potentially
got-
there was, I don't remember if it may have been 17 going into 18 when I first come in. There was some money that was held aside from the 16 fund balance. No, 17 fund balance into 18, my first year, that was directed towards curriculum and textbook purchases.
Yeah, I mean, we made a large textbook purchase a few
Yeah.
years back, so.
Yeah, that was 17. Yeah, my first year. So that might be related to part of that. But like I said,
That's still,
I
that
have-
only makes up account of it. It only accounts for half of it. If all of that shift was to CHS, maybe it's a piece.
that was a district-wide piece that wouldn't have been allocated to the high school.
Oh, I see.
Let me
Okay.
dive into it. I have some ideas and thoughts on how I can make this work, and I'll have it for you for November 6th.
Thank you.
So I did have another question, Corey. On your original report to us, you had mentioned that we originally budget a return of $200,000 for tax relief. We don't actually, well, clarify for me, but we don't take $200,000 and make a line item that is then budgeted. That's
No,
so.
where that is municipal budget law requires balanced budgets for school districts. So you have your expenditure budget comes down to your gross appropriation, then you have the revenue side of the equation. We budget on the revenue side use of fund balance of $200,000. It's recognized on the revenue side. It's not recognized on the
On this.
expenditure side. You won't see that in the expenditure budget.
And where it comes from is, there's $50 left in this line, there's $1,000 left in this
Right.
line. So when you add all those excesses up, we're counting on it adding up to about 200,000. So we're saying that's what we anticipate being left throughout the budget scattered. And so you sort of sum capture that and say, here it is as a revenue then going forward. So it's not one specific line. It's sort of the sum total of all the lines. Now, remember, some lines are overspent, some are underspent.
Right.
Some are zeroed, they're matched right out. But in the end, we anticipate having about $200,000 to return.
And in some years, there's years where the school district has returned $700,000. There's years that we've returned 300. This year we're returning 149.
And obviously we
because of
can't
that-
go over,
that
so
first
we
student
have
bill.
to return some. And I realize that what a job it must be to have to budget, with a max cap, right? Because there is no flexibility.
And we are
Um,
we're required by law to return unassigned fund balance. Now we can, in terms of encumbrances, we're able to do that and carry some money into the next year. If we commit the fund balance, we can restrict fund balance, but we can't, if we have something that doesn't have a specific purpose to carry forward, we need to return it. We are obligated to return whatever money that we have in unassigned.
And Corey, just on the concept of fund balance, the auditors recommend, you shouldn't be budgeting to zero. You've got it because oil costs fluctuate. Again, you're budgeting 20 months out. So special ed student needs come along. So what do the auditors recommend as a reasonable fund balance? Because I think of 200,000 on a $20+ million budget. That's pretty reasonable, but
I'd say between 2 and 2.5% has been my experience in working with the auditors and such.
Okay, so
Somewhere in that
auditor
realm where
which
you
makes
do
sense.
have some flexibility to carry some funds over into the next year and still be able to return money to.
So I'd
Or
really
it's tax
position it as an auditor recommendation rather than, because when I read this, I think, if we're budgeting 200,000 for tax relief, why don't we just not take it in the first place?
We don't have a choice.
Right.
We don't. There has to be a number in there in order to balance the budget on the revenue side.
Okay.
And there are also things, and you'll see more too, even in the sheet that I provided on Saturday, when it comes to Medicaid revenues. It's so uncertain right now what we're going to get that we've gone to the revenue and we've budgeted $1 where we've traditionally gotten $100,000 to $150,000 a year. I budgeted $1 in that revenue source because of the new laws that are in place that are restricting what you can put in for Medicaid reimbursement. So
It's a lot of up in the air at this point.
chances are we're going to get a lot more than that $1, but budget wise, we can't expect it.
It'd be
Right.
irresponsible.
So there was one other kind of maybe big ticket items that I wanted to just talk about is the starting at GMS, really GMS and LMS, the building services, the first section, the buildings and grounds. Many of the things that are going to be replaced here, I think would be things that we would do over the summer, right? Like the asbestos abatement, retiling, all that stuff that we talked about. And I wonder if there's a potential opportunity to potentially use some of that $200,000 that's kind of set aside to return to taxpayers to reduce the amount in the budget
So the
ahead of time, and then somehow allocate some of those extra funds to use toward these things that would be done in the summer anyway.
to
You know what I
just to be very, very clear, the $200,000 is the minimum that we are expecting to return. It's not a guarantee, just like we're returning 150. Had we
Yeah.
gone further, you could get to the point where you return nothing.
And you don't want
So,
to, you don't want
I'm not
to,
gonna-
you don't want to over budget just do projects like at the end of the year. I mean, that's what the budget committee is going to cut anyway.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
happen to end up with some extra monies like we did this past year, and then we utilize them for some of our needs, like the trucks and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, if we get to the point where, as I did last year, and I will consistently do, is as we get into May and June, I'll come forward with a list of things, and it may include stuff like that. But I wouldn't cut those things out of the budget now until we have a clearer picture. It's way too early to even project where we're going to be at the end of the year, especially in cases where we don't know what's going to happen with special ed.
Right, we don't even know where we're gonna be at the
We
end
don't
of
know
this
where
year.
we don't know where we're going to be. So
I'm just highly concerned about sending the budget to the budget committee or to the voters after that with even more than a 2% increase. That's what we started with here, and I feel like we've just added more tonight. I mean, as much as we've taken away,
we actually
and I'm
cut a
wondering
net
if
5,000.
we did
We actually cut.
5,000. So not really moving the needle a whole lot.
But the,
No, but I think in my philosophy, and obviously I'm not a school board member, I'm not sure what year, but in the school boards that I've worked with, is that you let the budget committee do that work. You guys are putting forward a budget that this is what we need, and let the budget committee go through it. We'll have our discussions with them and let them make the cuts. The people who are preparing the budget on this side are the educational professionals, people who work in the facilities, people that understand what we really need. So the budget committee is going to do what they're going to do, and we'll allocate that the way that this board decides to allocate that. Not based on what line they cut. If it's a district priority, we're going to take care of it. So that's my philosophy. You don't want to cut yourself down. Let them do
I
it.
know, but
The
I
other
feel
thing-
like in some ways we ought to, as a board, discuss. I mean, I know that this budget has been built from the bottom up, but I feel like we need to look at it from the top down perspective too, saying, okay, I know that these are all what we're saying as the needs, but it's really about prioritizing.
absolutely, but what is the overall, are we still with that net cut? If,
Still
when
being
we
the two
consider the additional revenue that we're getting from the state, is that what I'm reading here? It says 1.21%.
On the tax rate, yeah.
So 19 cents on the tax rate, right? So is that the percent increase for this year's budget?
On the tax rate.
Okay.
Percent. We were at 2.16 going into tonight. It's not going to move a whole lot.
Right. And then that doesn't include if the teacher contract passes.
That's
And
separate.
then,
But the teacher
Right.
contract is this year, not next year.
right.
But you would have expenses for implementing that next year that
the
aren't
second-
included in
for
this
year
budget.
two.
Year two,
Mhm.
Yeah, but when you look at you have the first year where you're pretty certain where you're going to be because you have the current staffing level. The second and third year that are estimated are really kind of a shot in the dark.
Mhm.
Yeah, we say it's 294. It could be much less than that. It could be more. It depends on your staffing level. You
Sure.
just don't know.
but those numbers aren't here. I mean,
No, no.
you're going to have those in May. I mean, first of all, we have to wait to see
What happens?
But that's, even if it fails, there'll be another agreement on the warrant in March with expenses included. So no matter how you slice it, the personnel costs are there.
78% of our budget. Isn't that much?
Right.
We can-
And then capital expenditures, I know we tackled some of our list because we had some funds left over. And so
A few, but there's a long way to go.
I know. And so I know that the budget committee, they've been, they've been saying, as we should, have a capital plan
And that's
for,
in-
right?
that's
And
in
I
process.
know it's in
Yeah,
process.
twice a month.
What's the time frame for that? Because I'm just trying, like, is our strategy this year also to, because we haven't budgeted for any of those, right? I mean, I haven't seen.
Nothing is
Consider
included
that.
in next year's budget that would be.
So,
I think the capital planning committee has to, I mean, honestly, consider a feasibility or somebody coming in saying, here's what you can do. I think, and so maybe that's an additional warrant, Tara, that we haven't seen yet. But right now, it's actually overwhelming when you add up everything that's out there. And
sure.
the committee has to make a decision. Really, the big question is GMS. Are we going to stay the course and invest in that building?
Yeah.
And commit to educating there for 20 more years, in which case we need to fix it up.
At least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not going to speak 20 years. I'm not going to speak to more than 20 years. But, I think we have to look at that window. Or is that not what we want to do? And, the budget committee, you heard them on Monday during the tour, there were mixed signals. I mean, stay the course or build.
All right.
So I think somebody with more experience in that realm than the educator sitting at the table has to come in and say, here's the options. And we're going to rely on the capital planning committee to say, let's put a warrant on there and get that expertise. Honestly, $100,000 to study it and to advise on it sounds like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of figuring out how to do it right, it probably isn't that much.
Right.
Corey, can I ask you a question on this report you passed out? The first one, building and grounds. You have as a $119,000 increase. Yeah, I'm looking as a decrease.
The budget reports that are printed from the software system, and I'll have to do some work towards reconciliation, but that carries forward encumbrances. So you have approved budget plus FY19 board approved encumbrances that are going into that budget number that need to be reconciled out. So you're seeing a net decrease. It's actually an increase over what was approved for last year.
Approved for this year, you mean?
Yeah, for FY20.
Because approved for this year, according to this report, is 1313. Yeah. According to this.
Sorry, my computer died.
Sorry. Right? 1313.
Yeah.
And up here, it says 1148.
What's missing in here? No, I'll have to look at that.
So is it actually a $120,000 increase in buildings and grounds?
Yeah.
What are we going up 10%? That
Maybe
shows-
it's two different reports that I got to look at some work. I really don't like this reporting software all that much, to be honest. So let me go through and do some reconciliation so the numbers match and agree and make sense. I know Tara was speaking of that earlier today as well.
I
the
know.
budget
Part of
committee
what
has
I'm
had some.
part of what I'm trying to understand is when we make these capital improvements, where do those go into the budget that we see here the following year? And I think that you had mentioned one of them, like the vestibule project at GMS would go under the repairs and maintenance.
The vestibule project was run through a capital project fund. It wasn't in the general fund.
Okay. There was one that you mentioned. So would they all go under capital
So the one
project
that one that
funds?
we did at CHS, because that was a lot less intensive in scope. It was done like it took 3 months to finish
Which budget?
GMS.
Building and
One at
grounds.
CHS was over a couple weeks. So I ran it through the general fund
What was the
and
other spreadsheet?
overran ran a maintenance
This
line,
one?
a 430 line into the red. And when the
It's
funding
always
comes
on the
back
back of
from the
the-
grant from the state,
Yes.
I'll replenish that
So
budget.
Okay.
And sometimes capital projects don't go in the budget at all.
It's,
We can use capital reserve for that.
And that's what we did with GMS.
That's right.
I mean, no matter what you do, these columns should add up to that, and this will add
So
up
I
to
have, I
this.
have a quick question, if nobody minds. When you did the Great East Festival, motion, which supply account did you take the 4,500 out of?
Hold on, I'll
the
tell you.
one that we put the 2250 back into, right? You cut it and then put it right back?
No, put into a different account, put into 810, didn't we?
He
Put out as
Which
610
one?
supplies,
Take it out of supplies, put it to,
into 810,
the fees
So general school supplies,
dues and fees.
for co-curricular music.
1490.
1490.
Dues and fees.
So we took it out of 1490.
Dues and fees.
so does anybody have a concern or, I'm looking at this GMS page 3, account 430, repairs and maintenance, and we spent last year 86,000. We budgeted 97, and now it's up to 128,000.
Hold on.
Which
GMS.
budget are you in?
Page GMS.
I am
Your budget is.
in the buildings and
No,
grounds.
Buildings and grounds budget. Those dollar amounts, I'm like, it's not a school one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Right.
Page 3.
Page 3, account 430, repairs and maintenance. So 2019 actual was 86,000 rounded.
Yep.
Last year's budget was 97 and net we're up almost $30,000.
Yeah, for the asbestos removal
It's a bigger area.
And the windows.
and the
the
windows.
windows.
Because we
Yeah, the
took- Didn't have the windows last
replacement.
year. So again, back to
Didn't have the
the
windows.
cycle of the
Okay.
windows.
Right. We didn't do windows last year, so that carried forward to this year, right?
Yeah,
So
there's
what
also
we're
two
missing
board-
in this, unfortunately, is this is where I would like to see, I mean, we see the cost this year, but we don't see last year, like, how much was the asbestos last year? I don't know.
Do you want to see
Everybody
all the actuals from 18, 19, all the way across and not just this?
It would be nice, I mean, if they're available. Because we
Because those
see it,
categories, it changes all the time. So it's not item for item and you can't match it from 2017, 2018, 2019.
right,
Like windows you can, because you know we didn't do any windows last year. So last year was
Right.
0, this year is 22,000. There's also 2 doors on here, which I don't believe we replaced 2 doors last year. There's another 24,000.
I see where you're
I'm
coming
just,
from. It's
what
a
I'm just
big
trying to
expense.
get at is like, what did we pay for last year versus this year? You know,
That would-
and so
I,
that's why
I
it's
know,
hard
I see
to-
what you're saying. It's a big jump.
It's a big jump, and
But he said all this.
Right.
out of it.
Corey,
Yes.
Yeah.
You went
Right.
through
So
everything.
the ask is on repairs and
Yeah.
maintenance at GMS. And, you know, we spent 86,481.
Mhm.
We can give a detail on how we spent that 86,481.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
I can provide expenditure audit trails. I can provide vendor reports. We could even go back to the notes from last year and I could
Yep.
check off what was done and what wasn't, what actual costs were.
So I think getting you that, Tara, if that helps, but the bottom line is it's asbestos is a big chunk of it. And it all depends on what you're doing and where they are in the building and how much you have to seal off and all the other factors that go into it. So
I
It
think,
was actually
well, and
phased
then
over
38,000 is just general. Like, I wonder if any of those are one-time expenses that are now,
That's things break.
right.
There's a lot of money that goes.
I
into
know.
that.
I know, but like, so you don't think there are any one-time expenses in that from last year?
Could be.
in the
Wow.
430,
430 for the 38,000. I mean, it's just a big bucket to.
Yeah, and keep in mind, once it goes into approved, you know, Dave will go through and there might be something in the 430 that there might be money he needs another, we transfer money
Areas,
around. We
right.
don't,
It all depends on what breaks.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Like you could have a boiler, God forbid, one of those boilers goes, the money's in there. He needs a piece of equipment. He's got to transfer $15,000 to $20,000, and then he's strapped on maintenance supplies. So it's or maintenance work. It's really, you never know from day to day.
Well, just look at 19. As far as budget and actual, it's $30,000 difference.
Right. 18 to 19, me. Yeah.
Well, 19 that we budgeted for 55, and then the
The actual
actual
6.
just don't know.
Anybody have
Okay.
anything else on business, buildings and grounds? Anybody have anything on GMS? LMS?
I have something on elements. I was looking at the replacement shelf for the Learning Commons. I had it up 18, 19, and this year.
Which
Oh,
page?
sorry.
I'm sorry, Liz.
It's page 737.
Yep.
It's $16,000 in 2018, $18,000 in 2019, $11,000 this year, and they want another $9,000. That's a lot of money considering the high school has been almost half that price.
So what my notes show on that, and Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you go into the LMS library from either side, there's one wall with just a bank of shelves along it. They're
Okay.
screwed to the wall, they're attached, and the goal is to make those also mobile.
They couldn't have done that for $45,000 the past 3 years.
Well,
There's
they
a lot that's gone into that.
actually
Yeah.
all the
No, I'm
shelving.
not, I'm
And
just,
she
yeah.
actually, and Amy Provenzel down there is the one that has led the charge on this entire thing.
Oh, I
So
know,
she's
I
made a
know.
Significant investment.
It just seems like
At the
so
end of
much
this,
money.
though, Liz, they're
Yeah.
going to have all the shelving in the library media center there will be mobile. It'll all be
Okay.
on wheels. Versus CHS, that whole bank to the left when you walk in, those are all fixed.
Media room.
So it's really, if we had done the same thing at CHS and had made all those mobile, then you would be looking at that kind of expense there
at
too. But keep in mind,
$55,000.
that media center is probably, if you compare the
They-
square footage of the two,
Yeah.
big difference. So the ability to have the flexibility at
Yeah.
LMS,
It just seems like so much money I know that's gone down, but after this, I hope they'll be all done.
so my note is
LMS
final
would be-
shelving
LMS.
purchase,
Okay.
final shelving purchase. This is
Okay.
it. So I won't guarantee zero.
Oh, I get that. There are things here and there.
It looks
Okay.
so great in there.
It's absolutely
Amazing
beautiful.
job with that space. Okay.
Anything else on LMS? CHS, we've already gone over. Anything on curriculum? Special services,
Can I just raise a point, Corey? We did not, so when Devin was here Saturday, she was in a little bit of panic because of a potential out-of-district placement that occurred. But we didn't increase the budget to reflect that student.
she said she wouldn't have the numbers for like another week.
And so I'm just worried that we haven't done anything and we still have that kind of hanging over our
Well,
head. So
here's the thing with the number of changes and just needing to verify numbers. I know we don't want to do this on November 6th, but there may be a night next week where we have the opportunity to get all the ducks in a row. I can get clean copies of the budget out to everybody. You can do a final sweep and then quick meeting vote on it. Total amount,
Aren't we meeting next week anyway?
No.
Don't we have a board?
not until the 6th.
Oh, okay.
So I think
I think we need.
I think it'd be
another
rushed tonight. That's my opinion. Sorry if I'm talking out of turn.
But are you proposing an additional budget meeting or are you proposing
one.
do it at the next
one.
board meeting?
Quick one. I can provide all the information ahead of time, make it as early as possible, in and out, vote on it, have totals. I'll provide all the detail ahead of time. I think it's too quick to vote tonight, personally, because we don't know. We're not
Yes.
going to know the exact number. You're
Right.
not going to.
I agree.
are all the out of district, all the out of district tuition and transportation is included in the transportation line?
That's in there as of right now, unless she gets that confirmation on that additional student.
Right.
So that'd be another bill.
I could make it next Wednesday. If that's the discussion we're having.
See, I can't.
What about next Monday?
It has to be.
Although that doesn't give us a
No,
lot of
I'm
extra
saying-
time.
Not if we have to get up early for Tuesday.
Oh, right.
Of course.
You're up anyway.
Oh, those were the
I mean,
days.
what about this? We're all at the polls. I'm assuming everybody's gathering at 7. We haven't talked about it, but I mean, the polls are closing at 7 on Tuesday.
7.
Yeah.
So if we're already there to see what the count shows, I'm just wondering if we should,
We have to stay there, right? Until they're done counting.
Not everybody, but
but we don't have to observe it, do we?
I
I did when I was,
Yeah.
but I'll be there from 2 to 7. I'll be done with you people, sorry.
Well, if we did a meeting, what were the rules? Do we have to actually stay in the gym and watch? So if we met at 6,
I don't think we have to because we can't really see them.
I can't be here at 6. On Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Yeah.
Talking about 6 a.m. or p.m.
PM,
Oh,
AM. What is that?
It's closed at 7.
talking about.
I know, that's what-
Mike, I won't be back into town until probably 8:30 because that's the first day of the tournament. Your daughter will be playing too, right?
Okay.
If
On
they don't have a-
Tuesday?
Oh, you guys are killing me. I'm gonna have 4 meetings next week.
Next week's gonna be tough. My wife's out of town for 11 days. So I'm alone with the dogs and everything. And he's gonna be alone all day. So
All right. I was trying to double dip.
I don't know when to do
I
it.
failed.
So how about Monday?
At what time Monday? Day before tournament.
We have
game.
negotiations.
Well,
Oh, no,
team feed
that's
at
the week
7.
after.
So I don't know what time I probably can leave. I put on the team feed for the tournament, so I'm up there until whatever time, 7:30, 8, 9. I'll be home.
All right. And so Wednesday, Thursday, we have Halloween
Can he call in?
gate night.
Right.
Well, you know what I'm wondering now is, Michelle, correct? If we have a memo from Corey that we do a email vote on. And we,
You can do that. We can disclose at the next meeting.
and,
And you don't actually have to vote on the bottom line before you give it to the budget committee,
Right.
because you're gonna make changes later anyway.
When's our next meeting?
November
Six.
6th.
November 6th,
November 6th. When's the first budget meeting?
November 6th.
7th.
day after.
We need to give it to them
Oh, yeah.
a week, I
Well,
would
if-
say.
Yeah, but you don't have to give them all of it.
Michelle, they want to schedule tomorrow night if we have them.
We,
They'll have a schedule.
Are we talking just special services right now that we're
Well, I want to make all these adjustments that have gone in, so I have a clean number.
right, but
I'm not going to
Still
go,
not
my
done, though,
computer
have we?
died, so I'm not going to go based on what my iPhone's telling me.
no, but we've already made motions and accepted those changes. So
Okay.
right now, the concern is special ed, correct?
And
There's that
any
piece,
other,
right?
I mean, if we had a memo that detailed what the recommended changes were, and board members just give a thumbs up, thumbs down
Mhm.
to that email,
Talking about the changes we've made this evening.
those are done. No, I'm talking about any additional.
Any
And
additional?
if Corey picks up any other reconciliation anomalies that he just wants to make sure we're clear on,
Yeah.
we do it by email. We make it official at the next meeting,
Yeah.
but it still gives us an opportunity to base off the email vote to get it to the budget committee by, I mean, my goal would be on Halloween, because are they meeting on Halloween?
No.
But at
But
least,
you get it out to them and then
that's
they have
right.
it. they can
We get
sign
it to Carrie and then
Yeah, I think the big one is going to be Devin of information.
Yeah.
A new student coming in.
I think we're talking a $50,000 placement, but I'm not going to be.
Right. We don't
Probably
want
another 25 for transportation.
Right. So you might be looking at $75,000. We were joking about, can you buy one bus and get one free, or one ticket and get one free?
Mm.
Anyway,
That's okay. That's okay to do. We can vote by email.
we can vote by email as long as we
Then we'll
confirm it in
Confirm
public.
Okay.
But the email vote would allow us to at least get it put into
Reduce it,
place.
sign
And, yeah, so if that works, then we're not.
Then it's
forcing
not an
a
extra meeting.
Will she have to take out of her capital reserve, her capital,
Well,
that's what she was talking about.
She's thinking that she's gonna have to use the capital reserve to
For this
balance
year.
out this year,
Yeah,
but she still hasn't factored it in next year. So, again, it's a budget that's so tight that we need to just add it. Okay, so if everybody's happy with the email approach, let's do it that way.
It's a good
Or
idea.
you can live with that? Okay.
oh, time to go. Sorry, that was my head.
Time to go to bed.
I'm done. I don't have any more changes.
I don't need them
I'm
done
done.
either.
I got questions then on salaries and benefits.
I have one. Salary and benefits?
Yeah.
Which page? Gotta find it. Page 16.
I'm still rankled by that first one. 110, the special meetings for the special ed teachers. And I'd like to make a motion to zero that line out, 110 under special ed meetings.
Let's keep in mind that we spent $3,400 out of that budget already this year.
It's just, to me, it's not that's contractual. I mean, all the other departments in the schools meet during the school days. And they're paying teachers overtime to do what they're contracted to do.
So in talking with Devin, you have a motion. I want to make sure we're.
Yeah.
See, I was confused. I thought the
Oh,
first thing we
second.
talked about and the second thing.
Second for discussion. All right. So in talking with Devin about it, because her teachers, they attend the contractual meetings like the high school staff goes to the high school staff meeting. So her ability to get the department together is restricted because to have the special ed teachers at GMS, LMS, and CHS all meet. That's why she has that pool. And by the way, the 3,400 has not been spent for these meetings. So it's been spent for other purposes that were charged to that line, but it wasn't for
Yeah.
special ed staff to meet.
So
So
they don't-
actually, we've spent zero so far.
They don't meet on professional development days. They don't like break out like the special ed department goes one place.
And that's my
That's-
concern.
That's
If-
what
It can be an option, yes. It can be.
I hope they meet then too. Or at all.
Again, it just goes back to me that
It depends
What's-
because they have building PD that they need to do.
but all the other
Educators in a building.
but all the other departments have the same.
We do that in the morning and then we meet as a group in the
The social
afternoon, whatever
studies, the
department.
PE, the math, they all have the same requirements. They don't have $6,000 of overtime to have their meeting. To me, that's a grievance waiting to happen. If we ever use it for that, it's contractual. But there are 186 days. The meetings are set up by the superintendent and the curriculum coordinator. That one rankles me a little bit.
So you're proposing to cut it to zero,
To
right?
cut that line to zero.
What have we used that money for? Or is that?
Well, no, if you look, in 17, we spent $49.
Yeah.
And then in 18, 19, we spent zero. The
Mhm.
3,400, I believe, Holly pulled that number and talked about it in our directors meeting today.
She was taking a closer look at it to figure out exactly what it was used towards.
So we don't know for sure.
I don't have the exact
Not that
detail
we can-
on it.
Okay.
I think she actually gave it to Devin. I wish we had brought it up. Well, I think we tried to, and then we got sidetracked. But anyway,
Both of those amounts we talked about were $6,000. That's what kind of messed it up in my head a little.
Hmm.
But my head's a little messed up at 10:10 at night.
I'll second that.
You already did.
Okay. I'll second everything after 10.
don't third it. Don't third it.
So I understand that, like, I mean, the teachers come from different areas, so it's hard to like get them all together, but
But you have to get the math teachers all together to have a K-12 curriculum, and they do it without the extra money. That's what I'm saying.
They do it during the school
They do it
day.
during the school
They
day.
get
They do it
subs.
during professional development
Do
days.
They don't always do it without extra money. I mean, Mary is paying stipends out of her lines. I think this is another example where Devin had worked lines in her budget that other people are depending on Mary for. So kind of like reducing the other line,
Mhm,
moving
and
it,
putting
right?
Back in
Yeah.
Mary. Is that wise to do? To move it under, to move out all of the PD stuff under Mary?
Kind of makes sense.
I mean, it does make sense. I just don't want to, I don't want to tie anybody's hands that shouldn't be tied.
Well, she hasn't spent any money in the past. She wants to spend money now to get together. How did she get together in the past? Ever?
Well, not, I mean, it would be, she would do a PD for GMS, a PD for LMS. This is to get everybody from all three schools together.
But that's what professional development days are for.
That's what,
For district, I think that's where you're coming from,
that's
isn't
where I'm
it?
coming from is other departments do it. Mary's doing it K-12. Mary's doing it K-12 for, I apologize, I don't remember what this year is, whether it's social study or humanities, math, she's doing the curriculum.
Yeah.
Devin should. be getting
Right, but
a special
how many
ed.
like math teachers come to develop that curriculum?
Actually,
It should be. I
One
mean,
per grade.
One per grade, usually.
I'm not
It
sure.
depends what the meeting.
That's how
She
she's
doesn't
doing
full
it.
reps, and she's also
Yeah.
used like Live to Learn Academy took the
Yeah.
place of filling some of that curriculum development
So they did
needs.
it over
So,
the summer. Yeah.
you know, I'd suggest if you cut the 6,000 and then put 3,000 back into Mary's budget, it's kind of like you did with the other.
Mhm.
It's like splitting the difference on it, and it gives Mary that flexibility toward. It takes it out of being sped meetings, but if there's a need there, she has some ability.
No different. I'm sure that you expend money like it is a
I think I just
science.
like, from a fiscal standard, I'd like the assurance that the drive's not for spending the money before looking at the PD, at the scheduled PD days, because that's when they get together.
Well, and
Yeah, and again, you have needs in the district, it just,
no, but that's a really good point. I mean, Mary and I have made a real focus to what do we need to do with that time,
Mhm.
right? So we're really trying to drive, like, here is time. Time is valuable. And so we want to make sure that we're paying attention. So all the planning that's going into November 26th, our next workshop day. Dr. Saden's coming. It's trauma-based, trauma, working with students with trauma in schools. We have a real focus for that day.
And that's important for special educators too. So they'll be
Ah,
participating in
They'll
that.
be right there,
Yeah.
side by side, elbow to elbow.
But don't they break out in the afternoon? Like after lunch, you go with your teams or your
We-
group?
So that day, I don't think we're going to do a breakout. It's on our agenda for admin team tomorrow to kind of finalize because we're a month out. But I'm not sure if we're going to do a breakout.
Some of my favorite PD days are when I got to be with the other schools, with the Alvern people and the Nottingham people. I loved it.
So right now, it's all staff in the CHS gym, tables and chairs, and that'll be the format
All day?
for the training. That's what we have to finalize tomorrow.
Oh
but
my goodness.
potentially all day.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, bite it.
Oh, thanks.
So where'd that go in the same? What you're talking about, put it in the same place?
Yeah, where we just put the 3,000, I would put another 3 if you're amenable to that.
I don't like it being under salaries and benefits. I think Rob has a point there with the CPAs. and we need to be careful about
And then Mary is more or less the governing body, like how it's going to be used.
with professional development. It's meeting with professional development. So
If you're moving from a salary line, you should probably go to a salary line. Just saying.
but who's
well, we can zero it out and just change the other amount then.
right?
Well, that was your motion, zero it out.
No. But if he's saying, if you're taking it from a salary line, so we just zero this one out. If the
Yeah.
push is to get 6,000 in the other one, zero this one out so the salary line's gone, and just pull back the full 6,000 from the other line, which was a PD line.
Why wouldn't you just go back in the same one, back into,
Well, he said a salary line should go to a salary line.
Well, you can always like if there comes a need to pay out of a salary line, you would transfer it back during the year.
So this is not. I mean, this is not for that additional PD. This is to pay them for time after school,
Mhm.
outside of
I mean,
school
it specifically says it's
Outside
salaries
school
for
hours.
sped meetings.
hours. Right.
What you're proposing to do, the budget committee is going to do anyway. I mean, it's 0, 0, 0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're going to zero it. So
It's a lot of money for meetings.
Well, how many special educators? I mean, is that paras? Is that teachers?
When I asked last year, she
Both.
said just
it
teachers.
is
Just
probably
the
both.
teachers.
Oh yeah, 110's teacher.
And it's just, there's PD money and there's,
Mhm.
I just never liked that line.
That doesn't include the paras?
The salary line?
I specifically asked last year.
Oh,
But
you did?
Yeah, I thought you said it's like,
just teachers.
Oh.
all right, so there's a first and there's a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of reducing line 110 special ed salaries to 0. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
So that's 500.
I know the question was asked, so like on personal development days, I take it they all get together, correct?
It depends on what's scheduled, but we have the flexibility to do that.
Anything else for salaries and benefits?
You not putting it into the curriculum is fine. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah, so from the sound of it, it doesn't fall into curriculum where it was salaries.
Right. It's not paying for the PT itself. It's or course reimbursement. It's to
Okay.
pay for the overtime.
I mean, if you need more money for personal development,
We can use that.
Got it.
Corey, on page 10,
Salaries.
account,
so
no, account number 114. Oh, wait, hold it. Nope. Hold on. Where was it? Oh, yes, it was salaries. Post from personal budget. 17,000. What does that mean?
It's an automated note. When we pull the
Personnel?
personnel budget over from the human resources module, it posts automatically.
Okay.
So if you,
So that's just combining para salaries.
so the para salary right above it, see if
Yep.
I have this right, because this irritated me. It feels like it's a double ask, but the 17,396 that's listed is the 17,395.56 rounded up.
It's a subcategory, so
Oh,
that's a whole
okay.
line on-
Okay.
So it's the
got it.
same person.
Oh,
And then
all
you're
right.
adding to the 17,396, the 3,400 for Saturday
I see.
detention. And that gets you the 20,000.
Okay. Got it.
So it looks like a double,
Yeah.
well, it actually looks like you're missing a position in the ask, but
Right.
you're not.
Okay.
System's quirky.
That's a word for it.
It's a nice word.
all right, so I think a lot of my questions on salaries and benefits, just for clarification. So the first one's on page 2. And it's 120. Substitute salaries, it says sub, it's TCH teacher, para, Monday. Oh, MON,
Well, I'm sorry, where is it?
Page 2.
120.
Substitute teacher,
That's
para,
a
or
Substitute
monitor.
teacher for pairs or monitors. So,
So that's just a total substitute line for,
so 52,000 is
For
just to
GMS.
cover
And that's
GMS.
GMS. Yep.
okay,
And if you look at the 3-year
it's there.
actual,
Yep.
yeah,
I
it's
just,
there.
like I said, just wanted clarification.
Yep.
And then kindergarten, para, and everything else we're leaving in right now. And waiting for the budget committee.
What page you on now? 6?
So that's the next, no, I'm on page 10, because there's the next one, it's the same thing, 120 substitutes. So how does CHS have so fewer substitutes?
They cover for
They
each
teach
other.
each. Yeah.
Corey, I had a question on actually your cover sheet for the salaries and benefits section. Under salaries, admin raises to be distributed by the superintendent, 45,000.
Where's that? I'm sorry.
It's this
It's actually Holly,
one.
it's actually Holly's cover sheet, but
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Oh, sure. So, and then all other employees, 29,000. So these are salaries for non-union members. How is that calculated? Is that 3% of everybody's salary?
that's,
Is
I think that's what she noted
that-
in the, yeah, she took everybody's
Oh, there it is.
current
Okay, I did miss
and
that.
calculated
Okay,
by
got it.
3% to bring them up, but then it's at superintendent discretion.
Okay, all right, perfect. Sorry, I missed that. All right, right there.
Call him
Yeah.
reinforcement. He lives at home.
Thank you.
And do you know when Holly's gonna have accurate numbers as far as insurance?
Those usually come in November.
So she's going to the school care meeting first 2 weeks in November, and we'll get our number there.
So now I'm on page 29.
Okay.
120 towards the bottom.
I had that one circled.
Yep, yeah, good for you. What would you like to do, Liz?
I don't know. I just circled it. Let me look back.
Substitute nurse.
Why it's different than the other schools?
It is different than the other schools.
LMS is, ooh,
LMS substitute is 2,100, and that's up 600. GMS.
It's right up there on page 9,
GMS.
2,500.
She's 2,500, 2,100.
That's up 1,000.
What page is that?
It's right,
Right above it.
it's all in that section. So
Thought so.
it's 25. It's 25, 21, 45.
So they've come down.
It was actually reduced. Probably based on 3-year actual.
7,400. The other two have gone up.
There it is.
It looks like they already took a $2,900 cut on that one.
Right, so why did GMS go up?
$1,000.
Because the average.
3-year average.
3-year average, yeah.
Well, 3-year average, but if you kick out like 17,
This doesn't work
then you're at
then.
24 and 21.
LMS is in a 3-year average.
So to be fair, and I'll go across the board, I'm gonna make a motion to cut 120 substitute nurses at GMS by 400. Bring it to 21.
21. I second.
Any further discussion? I'm just kicking out 17. I'm not sure what happened in 17, but if you look at the averages, you're at 2,400 and 2,100. And this year we budgeted 1,500, so it went down. Kind of like more or less, well, up a few dollars from 19 budget. But I think 2,100 is a little bit more in line for 3-year, or I'll say 2-year average, I'm taking out 17. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain. And then we'll go right down to LMS. There it is. So again, kick out 17, you're at 1,000, 1,600. We budgeted 1,400 and we budgeted 1,500. Somehow we went up to 2,100.
I have a question.
Yep.
Could this be related to their CBA and how many sick days they get? Like, do we budget for how many sick days or personal days or anything like that? Oh,
So I want to make a motion to just put that flat to 1,500. at LMS.
So minus 600.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Now we'll go down to CHS. Not quite sure why, but we're all over the place. I'm gonna make a motion to reduce line 120 from 4,500 to 2,500.
Second.
Just to speak to this one a second.
Yep.
Um, I'm just looking at the 3-year actual. So 5679, I call it 8 actually.
Yep.
To 26. And I'm sorry, you just cut it by how much? Reduce?
I reduced it 2,000 down to 2,500.
It's 2,000 to equals 2,500, which, I mean, we've never spent that little.
What happens if
close
there
in
isn't enough
19.
money in this line item?
Close,
Comes out of something else.
close in 19. It'll come from somewhere else because if the person takes leave they're entitled to, we have to cover the sub. Corey, have we seen an increase in so sub nurses, we have to bring in the service. Have they increased their fees?
I don't know that they've increased their fees. No. Yeah, Holly would have to speak to that.
And yeah, I mean, just the board just has to keep in mind that there's protected leave, and if somebody is out, we have to bring the sub in. And I am really worried that we're cutting that one just a little bit too close. You know, the difficulty is that because we're budgeting accurately, you're seeing 3 different schools, 3 different
Yep.
nurses. But I think looking at the average would be important.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Aye.
2, 3.
Yep.
Can we do a different amount?
You can if you want. Do you want to do something?
I make a motion that we take $500 off line item 120 to bring it down to $4,000 flat. Because I don't want to take it off the other 2 and not off of this one.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Next thing I have is on page 35. And it's 110. Is Lynn an elected official?
The school district treasurer is an elected official.
Doesn't she send the paychecks?
Although
Is there-
treasurer's not elected, right?
No, the treasurer is elected.
It is. Oh, I apologize.
I think I met her once, no?
Person for 15 years, but
What's that?
It's been the same person for 15 years, but it's not official.
What exactly does she do?
That's what I want to ask.
Signs checks,
She reconciles them.
takes the deposits to the bank.
Oh, she does? Oh, I thought, okay.
She signs checks.
Yeah, she still
I knew
manually
that.
signs all the checks.
I just didn't know what she did.
Reconciles the bank account.
For all 3 schools,
No, just district.
the district?
The schools for the student activities, they do.
Oh,
their
sorry.
own.
My next one is on page 40. 130 overtime.
Page 40, 130.
That
So-
one, which for custodial?
Yeah.
That's gonna be misleading because the amount actually charges against the line they're paid out of.
Okay.
So it's not gonna show.
That's what the zeros. That's all I have. Anybody else have anything on salaries and benefits? So next is looking at new and expanded positions request for 2020.
Can we take like a minute break?
Yeah, we've been rolling, haven't we?
I don't want to say rolling.
Plodding. More like plodding.
Oh, yeah. You want to like take a couple minute recess?
Recess.
Recess, yay.
Let's go play dodgeball.
Gaga pit. We need a Gaga pit.
I'm still confused.
we absolutely need to do tonight.
We're back up. All right, thank you. All right, so we just touched as far as expanded positions for 2021. I don't know if anyone wants to have a conversation now, wait till our next meeting, get clarification. Anyone?
If we can wait till the next meeting, I think I'd prefer to do that.
Anybody have any questions or?
Yeah, clarification points so we can get those for the next meeting if you have any.
Okay.
I'm a bit concerned about the special ed facilitator. It's not the same position that we put on a warrant twice, but given that there have been 2 failed warrants for an additional special education coordinator, which we need for our district. I think if we're going to put it on a warrant article again, we need to make it clear to the voters why it's a critical need at this time.
One of the things Rob's going to find out is whether or not what the budget committee's process is going to be as far as adding positions. It sounds like the town's ready to add a position, you mentioned in the last meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what direction they're going to take.
They're ready to add a position?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that's what you're saying, yeah.
I don't know. I just like we have on our list a 3rd grade teacher because of, due to the size of the current 2nd grade class, we need to add another teacher. I feel like adding special education.
See, I don't think we need to add another teacher.
What are we at right now at 2nd grade? I forget what the number was.
We need another 3rd grade teacher, but we haven't hit trigger numbers in the 8th grade, any of those numbers. If that's the policy we're going to go by, we need to stick to a policy.
So we have the enrollment report. Michelle and I spent about an hour.
Is it online?
Yeah, I looked at it.
I want to come to that in a second, but
Okay. But anyway, my point was just like we add a class when we have a need
Right.
to add a class due to enrollment, we have the right to add another
But it's a non-existing position right now.
I
that's
know,
why.
I know, but as a school board, we do have the right to do that
Mhm.
as we need when there's a critical need in our schools. We add
It needs to be on a warrant, right?
we add special ed teachers when we need more special ed teachers to handle the caseload. We hire paras when we have a need, and this is a critical need at this point. We need somebody who can serve as an LEA and kind of lighten the load for our director so that she can do her job as, chief supervisor and make sure that our department is operating at its best capability. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. So the 3rd grade teacher, I'm sorry, what was our class size right now in 2nd?
yeah. So if you want to shift over to the enrollment report, so there's a link to it in the agenda or there's a paper copy that got handed out, right? Did you hand this out on paper or it's only a link?
Only a link. He can have
There were 98 in 2nd grade right now. So that qualifies for 5 because 84 is the trigger number. That's
There's 5
huge.
2nd graders right now.
No, there's 5. There's
There's
only
5 2nd grade teachers.
Yeah, so if you look at the second page of this, so page 1 is basically, you have the historical data going back to 2007. We added the orange line in, which was the projection for this year, so that you can see what we were projecting, followed by the green line, which is the actual. So you can do the comparison of those. So, for example, at GMS, they were projected to be at 349. They came in at 356. Tom keeps talking about his increase in enrollment, which is deceiving because he was at 404. He was projected to go down to 379. He actually only went down to 396. So the increase he keeps talking about is over the projection. But I said to him, but you're down.
Yeah.
You're talking about an increase when you're down.
Okay.
So, and he used the word, I think he said exploded the other day. And
He
I'm like,
did.
stop it because, but actually he's up from 379 to 396. So
But
that's
that
what
big
he's
eighth,
referencing.
that eighth grade group of 113 is leaving, so all of them are going to be in the 90s, which
And-
technically means 4 teachers per grade level, which I don't think I agree with.
At
LMS.
at LMS. And then if you look at the other piece that I gave you, just so you understand it, that 43, -10, and -70, those are the difference between last year's number and where we're projected to be in 2022. So basically, GMS is projected to go up 43 students over
Wow.
that window. LMS is projected to go down 10, and the high school is projected to go down 70. And Bill and I have talked about that
Wow.
number because, if you look in 22, 23, the high school is projected to have 369 students, which is quite a loss.
We saw
for
this
the high
coming
school.
for years and years.
And it'll take a while for the 43 increase to
Right.
trickle its way up, but that's the reality that we have right now, 369. So you then get into the 3-year average method at the bottom. So basically, you look at what the average change has been over the 3-year window, and then you go to page 2, and Michelle and I debated with each other about whether we should leave in the 18-19 numbers. We left them there just for historical reference, but we're really not back projecting. It's just sort of, this is what happened from 18-19. The current year, the 19-20, were the enrollments, and we made sure all the staffing numbers were accurate. Remember, we had that typo that was in there for the 4th grade. And then what are we projecting forward for 2021?
Okay.
And you can see the only change that's being projected is that the 3rd grade go up by 1. I'll point out to you the kindergarten number. So we changed our methodology and did a 2-year average. We had 81 last year. We have 76 this year. So our projection going forward now is 79, which is still 3 above your trigger number, right? But we just don't know that we'll actually see that.
We could say that about first grade too. If we have 77 kids now, how are we going to have, we might not have 90 or 84
Yeah,
to keep a first grade teacher.
first grade got wonky on us because 90 is the number and the average of 90 is 90. So you weren't really dropping off of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we had 90 last year. We projected 90. We have 90.
Right.
So that number actually held pretty true. So we're continuing to project 90, which is 5 teachers to get an average of 18 in first grade.
But what if there are 84?
There haven't been.
But we have 6, 7 less kindergartners than the year before, 5 less kindergartners. I'm just saying this for all the grades.
Yep.
Like what, you can't cut a teacher once there's one there.
Yeah, we have.
You really?
Yeah. we've
So
done
if
that.
we find out in July that there's only 84 first graders, we can cut one of the first grade teachers?
No, we'd have to know
We've
that
already offered them a
going,
contract.
right before we offer
We
contract.
would have to do that.
But that would be a reduction in force. We've done that
Yep.
many times.
Yeah, I mean, GMS has been going up and down. I mean, a couple of years ago, there was only one class that had 5 teachers. Everyone else had 4.
Right,
You could move that teacher to grade 3.
What's that?
right.
I said, or you can move that teacher to grade 3.
Right, and that's what we try to do is just reallocate.
Yeah. It just blows my mind, the difference between 7th and 8th grade. That's a ton of kids.
So 3rd grade right now has 4 teachers.
Third
Yes.
grade right now has
Third grade
4.
now has 4.
4.
Yep.
Now, is it gonna
And he
increase?
wants 5.
Because you're good.
Because your class of 98, when they rise, we're projecting they'll be at 103 based on what we've seen.
85. And then the following year, you'll lose, well, you won't lose anything. You'll gain a 5th grade teacher.
Because the
No.
103 will
Right.
project up to 104.
We don't have room. We don't have
Drop a
room.
new trailer.
You don't even-
No. So we need to fix this problem by 2021.
There you go. Gotta get on it.
We are on it. We're on the capital planning committee.
There we go.
All right.
So the other question I had on these two positions, because I asked that these, the National Art Honor Society one, and we are all the same.
Yep.
They're gonna be stipend positions. They don't have to be negotiated. The CBA.
So the stipend committee right now is looking at, I'm gonna sneeze, bear with me. But they're reviewing all the stipended positions that have not been filled in the past. So our advice going into the budget committee is not to cut that line this year because we're reallocating those funds. Adding, so actually these are ads, but they would be in that work
In
that's
that
being
same
done.
budget.
So
Because
it's
they're taking others out.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's some club that hasn't met in 10 years. And it's been carried in there and the budget committee cuts it every year, which makes sense. It doesn't
Right.
meet. But our point is let's put the ones in that are meeting, take out the
Right.
ones that aren't.
That makes sense.
There'll be some money left in there that we can use to make salary adjustments because salaries have not been adjusted in 10 years.
In
So
anything.
we just want
Yeah.
to take care of all of that through the stipend committee that was negotiated.
So the dollar amount's already in there, so that it's not like additional.
Right. So 888.64
Yeah.
is, I think somebody figured out that it was really an $850 stipend that got a
FICA.
salary adjustment made at some point because you have all these weird dollar amounts.
Oh,
We also want to normalize the dollar amount so that they're not 64 cents. Then two people split it and you have a 32-cent check. So anyway, all of that should be done as part of this process.
Right. So on November 6th, when we meet, we'll be going over these.
So make sure we have this right. I mean, the kindergarten, we've got a plan we're trying to work out with the
Yep.
budget committee.
Mhm.
The administrative assistant hours, we're working with negotiations at LSSA.
Yep.
The library monitor is a question the board has to answer. That request from GMS. Third grade teacher.
But the
we've
library
already-
monitor, Jason was telling us that that's probably gonna be rectified just with a piece of equipment.
That's correct.
So should we,
The third grade teacher is based on enrollment numbers, which I feel much better about this enrollment sheet. So we're all on the
Yeah.
same page with it now. By the way, if you look at the spreadsheet, you'll see that the 18, we're doing it with tabs. So the 18 numbers are there. The 19 numbers are now added in. We'll
That's
add
awesome.
20 numbers next year. So we'll
Okay,
always
yeah,
have it there.
That's great.
The computer teacher is an ask from Scott that we have to figure out. And we have the district-wide grounds and the Campbell High School custodian ask. The two stipends we'll take care of through that other committee, and the special ed facilitator is the dilemma.
is the custodian, was that not a previous position?
There were more custodians at the
Yeah.
high school at one point. They got cut. I don't know the historical.
So that's not a warrant article?
It's not a
Yes.
warrant article
Okay.
because we have custodians.
Right.
And
Right.
The high
we
school is
had-
bigger.
I know the numbers
needs
went up
more
and down.
cleaning.
And the reality is, if you do the math on it, I
Mhm.
mean, they're being asked to do too much and they're
Per
not
square
able to
foot,
do
right.
it well.
Right.
So I don't think that's a warrant because I think that's existing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So what would I say for warrants here? What would you say for warrants?
Well,
I don't
Computer
wanna
te-
get seen
the
as
computer
special
teacher.
ed.
Computer
Admin
teacher.
assistants. I mean, anytime we've
We already have a
expanded
computer teacher, though.
hours, we
We
put
already have
something on there.
On the warrant as an
So
expansion of
expand it.
hours?
No.
To full-time.
I would
So
no.
From part to full-time?
Yeah, that'd be the computer
Well,
teacher.
I think the computer teacher would be because
Not
we
the
did that.
admins.
We did that with the assistant principal.
Yeah.
At GMS.
Yeah.
Did what?
We had it on as a warrant. Oh, we didn't?
No, that was,
Because
Oh,
Because
they
it was
wanted us.
full-time.
They wanted us.
it
to
was
do
full-time, then it
Because
went
they were
part-time
full-time,
when
we put
Connie
down to
Farrow
part-time.
was there.
Yep.
But this is going from part-time to full-time, so that would be a
Yeah,
warrant
the
article.
computer teacher was never full-time to begin with.
Correct.
I think that's
So grounds
that's
can,
it.
and custodian are not warrants, right?
Because we have those.
Stipends are not warrants. So this, and then the special ed facilitator. So the monitor, the computer teacher, and the special ed facilitator.
What's our agenda look like?
Say
for
that again,
next
the
meeting?
monitor
Do I
is
have
new, so that's a
to bring a
warrant.
sleeping bag?
Yeah, be a
What's our
computer
agenda
teacher.
look like for
It's
the
going
next
from
meeting if
part-time
we're
to
gonna have
full-time,
to
so I don't
vote
think
on
that
this?
has to
too?
be on.
Yeah, because it was never full-time.
before.
You
Had
gotta
we
wait.
had it as
Oh.
a full-time position and then reduced it
Got it.
and put it back. it
And
would
then the
have-
facilitator. So it's three that are potential warrants.
Yep.
Got it. All right.
How long is our next meeting gonna be if we have to do this too?
Well,
Hmm.
all right. So
Well, hopefully hopefully we'll all have all of the changes ahead of time and we'll vote by email and then just have to go through them in public.
That,
That's the goal.
Okay, that'll bring us community forum. And there's no one here from the community. So we'll go on to old business, LSSA grievance, arbitrator cost.
Yep. So just, I calculated, I told the board that I'd have a calculated cost for that. So basically, I've added up all the associated costs. So Mike Elwell, who advised us and testified at the hearing, makes $250 an hour. He put in 16.9 hours of work, so that was $4,225 for Mike. Peter Phillips came on to handle the case because Mike couldn't both testify and handle the case. So Peter put in an additional 36.7 hours. He makes $240 an hour, so that was $8,808, coming to $13,033. We then paid Gary Altman, who is the arbitrator, $2,880, which was half of the cost of arbitration. So LSS also paid $2,880 for the arbitrator to come in. So that brings the total to $15,913. One thing I didn't include was lost time for employees who then were meeting with attorneys for all of those hours. And on the day of arbitration, we had employees, including me and Holly, plus folks from LSS who sat with the arbitrator testifying and witnessing the arbitration hearing. So if you add that lost time up, it would be even greater than the $15,913. But I wanted you to have the total cost of arbitration, which exceeds that 15.9, I guess.
So next we have the delegate assembly.
So just a quick reminder that the delegate assembly for the School Board Association will take place on January 25th. Who went last year? I'm sorry, I lost. Tina went.
Yep.
And do we have a volunteer for this year? So we're looking for a volunteer for this year to go. It's actually, it's a pretty fascinating day, I think.
It
to
was, it was really interesting.
Watch the way it goes.
when is it?
January 25th.
All right. Keep you posted.
Continuing resolutions, we offered one last year. We had a friendly amendment from another district, and then we ended up getting ours passed, right? So it was quite a process. I have not heard from the board an idea for a resolution. So the deadline is fast approaching. They're due by November 4th. So if you have an idea of something that you want to see, we need it pretty quickly because we'll have to get it submitted. We want to make sure we make the deadline. Last year, there was the pressing issue relative to tuition costs when the state board orders that on a district. But I haven't heard anything pressing. All right.
Excellent. Do we have any manifest? Sorry? No.
Not this week.
All right. Once again, we're at public input, and there's no members of our community still up, at least in the building. So that brings us to non-public session, RSA 91-A:311. Dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, of the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected, one, has a right to the meeting, and two, request that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted.
Yes.
Of any person as a public employee, matters which if discussed in public will likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body of the agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
We were non-public.